all about the fans, you know? I really prefer just to be,
I've
profiting off
I've said
of
it
the
before. I'll
masses.
say it again. Pay pigs is what we should call them, and that's
Hmm.
what I
Oh,
internally. Oh, hey
I'm not
guys,
going
are we
to
live?
engage with either of the
nothing
two of
we
them.
said was real. It
Oh
was
my
all
god.
a farce.
They're the
Oh,
worst. They're
haha.
the
We're so
worst.
funny.
Throw them aside and you guys can just follow me. I love you and I think you're great.
She's the
Anyway, hi
one.
guys.
Yeah.
Welcome back to like the fearsome, not foursome, threesome. Today we have
The
me
Trinity.
with my bum foot.
Yeah.
You're just waving it.
Yeah, that, and then also my other bum foot, but it's not in a boot, so I can not get around very. I actually, what's funny, guys? I made Steven watch Jurassic Park last night. A friend of ours that came over to help me clean because I can't clean. And as I walk like I have four legs, like almost like this, like the people in the giant suits, and it
Yeah.
makes me feel like a brachiosaurus or whatever. So every time I move, I'm like dun 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 dun. It really does look like that.
Okay. Guys, I thought we would talk for a little bit before we get started on the book, as we let people kind of filter in about what's been going on with the.
What has been? Oh, I just
Oh,
lost.
William.
Will, we just lost you. I thought that was me.
No, it's just William as per usual with his
Wow.
jank ass setup.
Wow.
He needs love,
He
tender
needs
love.
a new laptop.
Yeah, I
No, I
know.
just need new USB ports on it. That's really the
Anyway,
problem. Is the USB port somehow got really like. Anyway, yes. So I thought we could talk for a little bit about what's been going on with the channel, because as you guys know, this is like a month late, and B, the girls haven't been on for quite as much as normal. So Maria, if you would like to start.
Um, Hi
she hates
guys.
you all.
I absolutely do not. So as some of you know, we live in Florida, a state that is potatoy in the best of times, and the west coast of Florida got pummeled by two storms at the end of September, beginning of October, one of which flooded my home that I lived in, and it was real not great. I am currently staying at a friend's family's house that has graciously let us stay here and
Okay,
rent.
can we just say, wait, but can I just say, this is how great Maria has relationships with her exes? It's her ex's parents' house.
Yes.
That's how good terms she is with her exes.
My boyfriend, it was so funny. He was talking to his son about it, and he was like, "Yeah, one of Maria's friends, family," and they goes, "No, no, no, it's her ex's family." Also, and he was like, "A lesser man would be aggravated by that," and he was like, "But she loves me too much, so I'm not worried." And I was like, "That's fair." But anyway,
Also,
so
you guys were homeless, so that
yes,
also is a bit of a
we were.
motivator.
I had to in a 10-day period, maybe 12-day period, move the cats 4 times because we had to like evacuate once, then find a new place to live and move into the new place. And then we had to evacuate again because the second hurricane came through. And then we had to come back to this place again. So it was not good. Pumpkin the cats did not handle a lot of that well. Pumpkin peed in my car, great times had by all.
Still
And it's
smell like
just
cat urine?
Yep, unfortunately, I need to go get it detailed one day.
Oh
It'll happen.
Lord, dude, you're just hotboxing yourself in that
It's
car with cat urine.
I've cleaned it multiple times. I need to get it
Hmm.
detailed or get the carpet replaced. Anyway, but yeah, it has been a rough time in the Maria sphere, so I have had to obviously not record. And then there was just like some travel stuff that happened on top of that. Um But I am back. I am hopefully going to have a better setup by next week and find my actual mic somewhere. Because one of the things about having your home flood is everything is not where it's supposed to be.
Really? I never would
Nothing,
have guessed that that was an issue.
nothing. I, for the first time in my life, don't know where my passport is, which is a problem because I just booked a trip. to Mexico, so I have to find that in a month. And I have no idea where my Yeti is. The only reason I know where my camera is because I also happen to use it for work, and so it was readily available. Yeah, so be patient if the audio and setup and lighting is not the greatest on this end. I have very much missed the podcast. Big ups and thanks to Valerie and Lindbergh for coming in as fantastic guest hosts. You guys have been awesome. Valerie was super quirky and cute, as she introduced herself as in her video. And Lindbergh, as always, just slays. Every time I open a video with Lindbergh, I'm like,
But I know, with her horse painting in the background and her nice
but just
fairy
like,
lighting.
and
I know.
like the makeup and the ensemble, and I'm like, the fuck?
Yeah,
I
and then
thought I
meanwhile,
was trying.
yeah, no, and then meanwhile we've got that. So, you know, we're redoing, also because of the hurricane, had to redo a couple of things. But also, Spider Legs Pinch said Clorox's antibacteria fabric spray works amazing to get rid of cat urine smell.
Oh, that
That makes sense with
I
the
will
bacterial.
purchase that right now.
Yes.
Also, another nice comment. Del Lucetti said, I found y'all in January and been slowly working through the Yes We Like Books playlist and have now read most of them. I read so many great novels thanks to you.
Oh, I'm so glad. Of that list, which one was your favorite? If you'd like to tell
Share
us
it, yeah, that's
and
cool.
share, what have you enjoyed?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've missed the recording. I've missed Katie. I've missed Will. I've missed like talking about books.
Well,
I've read a ton of books on my own.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many books have you read in between?
Quite a bit. I read a nonfiction called There Is No Ethan. I read another nonfiction called Beloved Beasts about the history of conservation, which was absolutely fantastic. Would highly recommend. I wrote a book called Thorn. I'm currently reading The Witch King by the lady who did Murderbot.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I've read almost every Sherlock Holmes story. It was like 89 hours on Audible when I
Lord.
bought it, and I have 10 left. So I've hammered through that quite a bit.
Martha Wells, as a couple of people are saying.
Martha Wells. And God, there's been a couple others, but it's just I've read a ton. One of the things that has happened during this is I've just gotten very much back into like reading on my e-reader, which is great instead of just audiobooks. So yeah, but I've missed talking about stuff. I had one book I read and I was like, I have so many things and nobody I know has fucking read this. Goddamn potatoes. So here's to talking about books. Also, look at this mug. Does this look like a mug I'd have, guys? Does this
It
look
looks like my
the
grandmother's.
quality? Does this look
My
like
grandmother's mug.
But you know what my mugs look like. Is this my quality? No.
Yeah, an old lady.
This is the wrong kind of old lady.
Yes, it is. That is correct.
Lavender.
This is the old lady that has the Live, Laugh, Love in metal engraving on the wall.
She literally has live well, love much, laughed often in a grape leaf scroll.
What the fuck did I say?
I love you, Tina. Should you ever see this?
Anyway.
So, Maria will be back on the podcast a little more regularly, until she actually has to move. At which point, I imagine she'll take another couple of weeks off. But it's okay, we managed. And then we were thinking of doing some kind of a live stream where she talks about the books she read during that time period, just like running through them, because she always says she's going to do that, and then she never actually does it.
Honestly, I have so many thoughts, and I'm sure some of the I know Thorn. Someone in the Patreon recommended Thorn to me, and I have a lot of feelings about that book, and especially because the sequel is one of those where it's not actually a continuation of the first book, and it's got a new main character, and it made me so upset I haven't read it.
And then Katie has been working a new job. And did something happen to your foot, Katie? Or
Oh yeah. But that's like small potatoes, honestly. It's just annoying. No, unfortunately for little old me, I got strep throat. And then while having strep throat, I fell off a stair, not stairs, a stair, and broke my foot. And then 3 days later, I fell down the stairs again. and bruised my other foot because I was like, no, I can't land on my right foot because the doctor was like, so this is a really common athletic injury, But what commonly happens is athletes push themselves too much, and then it becomes displaced instead of perfectly aligned, and it's a weird bone and a weird placement. So unfortunately, like it becomes way too like it becomes really complicated, and sometimes it never heals. So I was like, oh my god, I can't do that. So as I fell down 3 stairs, I was like, I have to fully land on my left foot like a flamingo. And I know, Nemo. And so I landed fully on my left heel, and I was like, oh Jesus Christ, that hurt. And then went to the doctor, and it's fine. Just now every step is pain. But that's why I said I'm kind of like I just like
Like
the
a
theme song.
pterodactyl.
Like yeah, actually. I just like the Jurassic Park theme playing in the back of my brain as I try to go from the couch to the kitchen. And then also my job sucks ass. So a lot of thought has been going into it. I don't know if teaching in public spheres is for me.
Your school is just unusually a mess.
Well, it's Title
Like, it's
One.
unusually, but Title One in a bad area, because usually Title One is like good, isn't it?
No,
No.
Title One
So
is
Just a
bad.
so
private school.
the thing is, the area that Katie's school is in, it's a charter school, and it's a charter school in an area where the public schools are fantastic.
Yeah, so it's
Like
really weird.
it's really it, and so most kids, regardless of their income bracket, are going to the public schools because they're fantastic in this particular area. So the ones that are going to the charter school they're there for a reason, whether it's whatever one of them they may be, which a first time teacher is always going to struggle with. If you have the background for it, much
No,
better
even
fit.
no. Apparently not. There are teachers that have been teaching for 20 years that are like, "What is this garbage?" So no.
Well, charter schools get to pay real fast and loose with their like rules, requirements, how they treat their
Anyway,
employees, organization.
long story short, it's just a lot, and there's like a lot of outside time, but that's fine. Mostly, I just wasn't here last weekend to do the critique with Will because I broke my foot.
Because I insisted. She was like, I can still do it. And I'm like, it's going to be aching by tomorrow. You're going to have had to move around and take care of dogs. And like, it's such a pain. We can just move it later into the week. There's a reason I call our patrons pay pigs. And that's because they have to do what we say.
Well, look.
But we will be doing it either tomorrow or later in the week. I have to work out because now I have that A Song of Ice and Fire channel. I have to work out.
Careful,
the
wait.
schedule
You
for
have
Sundays.
to can if you're showing it to people who have arachnophobia.
Oh, sorry.
You have to remember that for some people is trigger warning material. You cannot just
She's so
as much
cute.
as much as I love her, we cannot just throw her up. Some
No,
people
I don't love her. She's going to eat her.
Arachnophobia people, please do not look. Sorry, I
For the
briefly
next
showed you.
10
For the next
seconds.
10 seconds. Here we go. And we've got Cheeto, the spider, regal, jumping spider.
Look at her doing a moving. She's so cute. Oh wow, she's really
Okay.
Okay.
Oh my God, Willie.
Okay. Arachnophobia is gone. You may return to looking. Lady Cheeto has left the building.
I should say that I have actually been doing okay, except for what happened on Tuesday. And I'm going to just apologize right now that my energy for this review may be a little bit low because a lot of my fire for this book has kind of died down because I read it like a month ago. And then also, we now have somebody whose narcissism is not just writ upon the page, but writ upon the nation and the republic. But I'm going to try to rev up. But yeah, I do want to very much say a thank you to Val and Lindbergh. They were
Yes,
really
thank
great.
you guys.
They were really the only people I could have brought in to do this in a time of need. Me and Lindbergh are going to continue my horror arc. We're going to keep doing that. I'm kind of interested. We're going to finally read The Troop, which will be super depressing. But yeah, and then we have another one coming out on not next week, but the week after probably.
Wait,
But
so
yes,
you're
giant
doing
thanks to them.
is horror a separate thing that you're doing though from the main
No.
channel?
I'm just calling it my horror arc because I'm reading a bunch of books in the genre.
Oh, okay,
Like
yeah,
not like like my character arc is horror right now. Is learning
Yeah.
horror.
He's in his horror error.
Yes, exactly. My horror era. And that'll
Welcome-
last like a couple months.
Oh, welcome to. So one of our friends is super goth, and she like every day is Halloween for her,
Gina.
basically. And by
They've
Halloween, I
they've
mean
met they've met Mistress
yes,
Sapphire, the Lady
yes.
Gina.
Uh, that's the same, but for me with horror, it's just a constant. Unfortunately, I can't live it though very well. At least Gina gets to like have like I was gonna say scaffolding. That's not the word. Sconces. She has like sconces and shit. Like I want my home to reflect my. My husband would kill me anyway.
I
I'd
want a
murder you.
giant Aquila on my wall, not the Ultramarines signal because I don't like the Smurfs, but maybe the Vika Fenrica, the Space Wolf sigil would also be cool. Warhammer.
I know.
Um,
I'm aware. I'm aware.
Anytime you say something that sounds high fantasy, I just assume it's Warhammer.
Warhammer. Look, I actually okay, and guys, I have shit a lot on the Warhammer fandom, and I just want to say that actually a lot of my converting or kit bashing friends on Instagram, they were also very upset by the election and are pretty staunch,
I,
leftists, and I was very impressed. And like, because again, I usually shit on Warhammer fans for being fascists as a whole, so there's
just
variety.
Judo Shrew's killing me. I can't believe scaffolding your teacher is
your
showing
teacher is
'cause
showing. That's exactly what I thought too. I was like,
yeah, no, that's like the worst part about teaching, honestly.
Uh,
But
Orc Proof says Orcs is best. The red one does go fastest. I'll say that. I mostly convert Orcs. You guys don't know what I'm talking
no.
about. I actually taught my cousin, my nephew, that. I used to tell him that the red one goes fastest. Which again is a Warhammer reference that Warhammer people will get. Okay, so this is probably what we're gonna do is we'll just cut all of this for the version of this live stream that will be for posterity, because in the future nobody's gonna quite care what happened. So we'll probably
I still love this sticker.
I'm not gonna put it on screen, but well, no,
Mm-mm.
I won't do that.
It's fine.
Okay, so all right, you guys, Maria, no, Katie, because Katie,
Yeah.
this is
Katie,
your first
yes.
time reading. You bring us in.
All right. Let me not have the camera shaking. I'm waiting for it to settle. There was a lot of shake. Okay. So I can just bring us in.
bring us
Bring
in,
us in.
baby.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers, to another episode of Unresolved Textual Tension. Today, I, Katie, am here with my co-hosts. I'm not going to give them nice intros. It's just Maria and Will.
We don't get laurels. You
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
whore!
Okay,
You
you're right.
cocksucker!
Yes. Okay, so we've got Cocksucker Maria. She's known as Cocksucker. And then we've got Titty Man
Ruggedly
Will.
handsome. I have talked
Titty Man
about
Will.
this. This is why you have been downgraded to budget Katie, and Lindbergh has been upgraded to premium Katie.
What?
She
That is
said handsome and rugged, and that's just true.
You
And
guys,
the book we're
he's just
doing
pandering.
today, the book we're doing today is The Savior's Champion 3 years later. So
And-
for those
Yes.
For those-
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say for those who don't know, the way this Savior's Champion arc started is that years ago I had gotten into Jenna Moressi's community a little bit. I had been like, hey, this is, she seems kind of she's. I don't want to say smart because that's not really what I thought, and I don't like to lie. But I was like, oh, she's exciting. She's got like a little community. I'll read her book when she comes out. And I read the book, and it was awful. And I really enjoyed hate reading it. And then when we started this podcast, I was like, I'm gonna make Maria hate read this with me, because I think it would be funny. And then that channel, that video blew up, and basically almost all of our patrons, or at least a good half of them, come from that video or the one of the Savior's sister, and that was 3 years ago. So with the next book in the series coming out probably in like a year or so, I thought, who else I could make read this and
This is-
have a horrifying experience? My other friend, Katie.
You really are in your horror arc. It's because this is kind of like The Ring, where like I have to show somebody else's book in 7 days or in 3 years or I'll die. A horrible. That's how it feels.
So funny.
Uh-huh.
So if any of you are like, wow, you guys are like really focusing on this way too much. Why are you hate spamming it? No, I've not read it before. This is my first go. Thanks for that.
So real
Thanks,
quick,
I
I
hate
just wanna highlight Science Fantastic's very accurate. Why are you not clicking? Click. Oh, I
Team
can't
Mom
do it.
Maria, Titty Lord Will, and Wildcard Katie.
Yeah. So I'd just like to highlight this Team Mom Maria, Titty Lord Will, Wildcard Katie, mainly because I've been known as the mom friend for my friend group for my entire life, and so I don't think that's something I've advertised on this podcast. So I think it's funny that it comes through
She's
anyway.
not pregnant, guys. If you want to, you can log into the correct email and rejoin, and then you'll be able to click on comments because you might
That's
need to.
fine.
But
Oh, that's
yeah,
true. Let me.
yeah.
Oh, if I log
Um,
in, it's gonna take me out.
but it'll take like 30 seconds. Me and
Can
Katie
you
can keep it going.
text me the login information? I'll do it right now.
Uh,
Text it to me.
it should be
Text it
just
to
your normal email.
Text it to her. Text it to her. Oh, that was abrupt.
Okay, so the thing about the orcs in 40K, and they really are one of my favorite.
Oh my God,
factions, but,
William, shut up about Warhammer. Jeez,
it was that
Louise.
or a Song of Ice and Fire, and I have a Song of Ice and Fire channel now.
No,
so
we're
this
gonna
is where
switch.
Warhammer needs to come in. There's also this new idea that for the
What
longest
hell?
time
He
they
just
thought the
steamrolled
Emperor
me.
was like a psychic god, but actually he may
I
be
feel like I'm
the
being
anathema.
waterboarded with information.
That was. We'll get to torture at some point.
Oh my God, can we just say that? Okay, look. Nothing's gonna be missed. Everyone, I understand why William wanted me to read this book. I understand now why a lot of people said things they said.
I did it.
I did it too, and it's done. And I can never get back that time. Thanks.
I thought, I'll be honest, I kind of, when I originally had Katie read this, I was like, there's like a 10% chance she likes this book. Because Katie is a wild card. Sometimes
She's
she just...
such a. I was re-listening to. I forgot that there's this author. There's this other YouTuber who does very in-depth book reread commentary things, and it was for Akatar and Akawar and Akamath, and I'm watching him, and I'm like, Katie liked this, and I'm so angry just listening to someone else talk
like
about
is a
it.
strong word. Like is a strong word. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say I liked it. There's a difference.
Okay, so
either way, wild card reaction.
Well, I did not enjoy the last book. The last, or not, technically it's not the last book. The last book we read together, that was like so boring. And oh my God, like for any of you that have
Fate,
wasted
Ink,
your
and Blood.
time watching what's it called? Twilight, the Twilight series. Anybody who has watched the movie where she has the baby, and every moment after the baby is born is just very boring and very drawn out. That's how that felt in the book. It felt like I was just sitting there and pointless things were happening.
But anyway, I didn't mean to derail us. Continuing with Will thinking 10% chance Katie liked this.
Well, okay, and so like I'm very I feel better about our friendship now that I know she doesn't like it. And again, a lot of people when they read or they watch these videos, they're just epistemologically against disliking books or criticizing them. And if that's you, turn off this thing. We have a whole playlist called Yes, We Like Books. I'll have linked that probably in one of the cards on the side. Go check those out. We still are critical of books we like, but there are still books on there that I absolutely do love. Like Sabriel or the Scorpio races. But we are going to criticize this book because there's so much bad in it.
The Scorpio races. What a breath of fresh air in comparison to this. This book is such I told William, I felt like this book, if I were to like describe it to somebody who had never heard of it before, I would say it's kind of like a slasher horror movie where like everything's kind of over the top, like that one Peter Jackson zombie film. I forget what it's called, but there's like some guy that takes a lawnmower and literally kills a whole bunch of zombies holding the lawnmower up, and it's just like tomato juice everywhere. That's how the beginning of this book felt, with a lot of historical, not that it's in a real world, but historical inconsistencies. And then it just slowly tapered off to like, what's degrading thing to say, but it's not like intense.
Mediocrity.
Boredom.
it just
Boredom.
yeah,
It's so
it
fuck.
it's so dumb. Like it's
Yeah.
really nothing happens. Nothing happens. And also Tobias is the most boring main character ever.
He's
There's a
a
reason that our channel meme became tired, grumpy toast, because that was a
sad,
brilliant
tired,
line.
grumpy piece of toast.
And so going back to it a little bit, if you liked this book, again, maybe don't read this review. If
And
you like,
also, continue. You say your thing well, and then
no,
I'll
I was
say.
gonna say if you like Jenna, a lot of people do. I'm incapable of lying, so I can't really say anymore that I think she's a lovely person because I've heard I've learned a lot about her and her writing process since this first review came out. But if you like her and a part of her
Oh yeah.
community, that's fine. You can still engage with that and still engage critically with the book at the same time.
One of our viewers actually worked for her, right?
No, but
We
also we want to kind of
Leave
keep
that away.
yeah.
But the point
Um,
is the gossip is real.
the thing I want to make is we recently got a comment on, I think it was the Savior's Champion video, not to make this a comment response moment, that was basically saying that as much as this person didn't think the book was that great, they felt a lot of our problems with it
Oh,
were
that
very
one.
nitpicky.
Well, yeah, that's the whole
And
point.
and the other thing is, I want to specifically make a comment about they in the comment they said, like saying it's supposed to be a Greek setting and that there's nothing there to make it Greek. It's Greek fantasy. The comment was basically saying it's a fantastical version of an ancient Greek setting. You're being nitpicky, asking for more from it. And the thing
But
that I'm gonna
no.
say, the thing that I'm gonna say is that the author says this is a Greek-inspired sword and sandal world. The problem is, and this is not nitpicky, is if nobody had told me that, there's nothing in this text that would give you that at all. And so for an author to say this is the setting, and then for a reader to go, it wasn't there, that's not nitpicky. That is a fundamental world building issue. This book easily, outside of having the drapes that go across their shoulders, which was drape. I
Wait.
think it was mantle. Was that the
sashes
like
were a very big
sa-
thing at one point in
Oh,
Yeah.
Europe.
okay. So as Maria's saying this, right? Like it's fine. You can do that, but what's the point of saying that if you're not going to utilize it? It's just it's a redundancy. It's like there's no purpose to it. And so to try to push that point or if that's like something that's highlighted in the world building aspect of it for fans and stuff, it's like what? Also, half the time they're half naked and oiled up. Like it
Yep.
is. So I described this to I think Maria this way. This seems like what was it? What is it called? This feels like The Bachelor meets
Spartacus, Blood and Sand.
Hunger Games.
Oh.
This is like the Hunger Games meets the like the fact. Okay, so when at one point in the book, as you all probably have heard from them talking about it before, there's this one part where it introduces the idea that if you win the game, you get to spend some extra time with the lucky lady, the Bachelorette
The rewards,
in this case.
yeah.
Yes, and as soon as that happened, I was like, wait, this is like The Bachelor. They're literally just trying to spend time with her.
And it's just it's a shame because Jenna really thought she ate with she ate with
She
that
nailed
one,
it.
and she just didn't. And it's just, and the thing is, you're gonna hear a lot of stuff that we're gonna come up now, and you can say it's nitpicky, but like when I say that I couldn't tell it was a Greek setting, I mean I couldn't tell what the setting was. Like this world is very blank as a backdrop, and
there is no background. I can't remember almost any background of anything except for the dumb sugarcane area. Because Will and I did like a close up look at the writing
wow,
there.
you know Greece with all of its sugarcane feel.
Yeah, again with the scythe.
They
He's
also
cutting-
eat potatoes at one point. We should say very quickly, me and Katie did do a close reading where we look at more of the prose of the book. That is also on our channel somewhere. We actually have a whole playlist for the Savior's Champions, so you can go check that out. But then there are 2 extra ones on our Patreon that you can get through getting one of the higher tiers, which we do have a Patreon. And Katie, why don't you describe what our patrons get?
Which tier
It's
is
3
this?
years. We're all of them.
All
Do you
three.
start from the first one and go up?
I still don't know. Here,
Oh
I'll
my
make it up
God.
as we go along.
Okay.
For one of the tiers, the highest tier, which is called,
The
is it Parasocial Dark Book Club? I don't know.
Parasocial darlings, you were so close.
Okay.
Don't hedge.
Yes. So in the Parasocial Darlings tier, you not only get access to our Discord and a wonderful community of people, but you also have access to Katie's Corner, which I'm restarting up, which is a critique group. Also, you have stuff.
The one under it is the book club tier, where you get to pick a book we read once a month through a poll and a vote. And you get a special channel on Discord to discuss it. It's a very good time. It's a group of people who disagree, but do so really respectfully. There's a lot of smart analysis. If your normal book club you feel like is full of dumb people, this is a good way of reading and keeping the community together. And you get to do live streams like this, where we'll read and put your comments on screen. Sometimes, usually we don't. And my mother bothers me that we should do it more. And then below that, we have our normal Patreon backer tier, which gets you access to our Discord. Again, a lot of really cool, sexy people there talking about cool, sexy books. And any of those will be supporting independent journalism. And if you're asking yourself, how do we support independent journalism without spending money? You can like this video. It does
Or
help.
comment.
Or comment.
I
Or
did a good
subscribe
job.
if you haven't.
I did a good job selling us because they remembered. So I reminded them. So, but I did a
Good
great
job.
job selling us. I'm
You can
great
also-
at marketing.
You can also get the basic tier as a YouTube subscription here. The two higher tiers are only on Patreon, though. So whichever is easiest for you. Now, before we talk more about our overall impressions of the book, I'm sure most people know this book, but Katie, why don't you tell us what the premise of it is?
So it's The Bachelor meets Hunger Games, and I'm gonna put on my Valley Girl voice. Anyway, so there's this guy and he joins a dumb competition to try to win the Savior's Hand, which is this goddess big titty lady. And or supposedly, there's a twist. So to win her hand, you must fight in a tournament, and the tournament's like the Hunger Games, but dumb. Hunger Games was already kind of dumb, but very visionary. But this is really just dumb. And anyway, a lot of people die throughout the whole thing, and the whole reason he does it is just to get some money, so that way he can somehow buy more medicine or something for his sister who is crippled. Excuse me, that's the incorrect politically term, but it says it in the book. She had an accident and she no longer can walk and has a spine injury. So yeah, and then people die and he makes friends, but they all die and it's all meaningless. And there's a lot of 7th grade boy obsessive humor about tits, about thighs, about penises, and people being gay, and that's oh my god, they're gay, and then oh no, we're gonna be found out because we're trying to win this big titty lady's hand and we can't be anyway, it's a mess. It's a hot mess. And then in the end they all live happily ever after.
No, but in the end, you got to
10
double
out of
back.
10.
At the end of the day, no, at the end you have to double back and read the companion novel, which is from the other love interest point
What
of
a
view.
dumb.
Which is somehow worse.
So I want you to know what I'm going into with this, right? So I knew vaguely what the idea was about. I knew who Cosima was. It's because Will has a gigantic crush on her. And so
I can fix her.
Yeah, you
And so-
can, buddy.
I thought she was the savior. And so when it said, and I know the savior's sister because Will and I on the hi Pumpernickel. Oh, anyway, so look at that scrunch nose. She scrunches her nose when you pet her. Anyway, so I thought Cosima legit was the savior, and I knew that the sequel's name was the savior's sister. So I thought she was just the badass assassin sister, and I didn't realize that spoiler alert, that she's actually the savior. And now that I know that, it somehow for some reason makes it worse that the sequel is from her perspective, and it was just the dumb again, the Twilight thing, where she made Stephanie Meyer made Midnight Sun, or tried to make Midnight Sun till she got butt hurt that it got leaked. But anyway, uh, from Edward's point of view, it's like, why would I want that? That takes away the tension, like, if there were any.
Yep. And it is worse. Savior's Sister. So, as much as we're about to go in hard on this book, when I tell you Savior's Sister is so there was multiple points where I remembered the
It's worse.
corresponding scenes. Like, as I was reading this, I remembered the stuff that Layla was freaking doing around what was happening, and I was like, thank God I'm not reading that one. That one was so much worse. It's so bad.
Wait, what in Save Your Sister?
Yeah. So there's points where, like, and something will be happening with Tobias, and I remember what Layla was doing at that same time in Save Your Sister, and I was just like, I'd much rather have to reread this than reread Save Your Sister.
This book is at least kind of action adventure, so the structure of it kind of is flaccid, but still kind of works. And there's also an extent to which, like, Jenna, and I should state this right up, we're going to make a lot of fun of how Jenna writes humor, and her overuse of certain words, but there is supposed to be a certain amount of self-conscious pulpiness to the dialogue and the characters. It's just that she doesn't have a very deft hand with it, and so it ends up being completely clownish versus a little bit pulpy. But that little bit of pulpiness still works better in this book than it does in Layla. And Layla is also far more of a narcissist and serial killer than Tobias is. Tobias at least kind of is a good person. Layla is not a good person.
Tobias is just a plain piece of toast. He literally is an idolized version of a man. Almost. He never does wrong when it comes to sexism or like sex, things. It's very blatantly compared.
Uncomplicated.
No, well, yes, that too. But it's very blatantly what's the word? What's the word when you compare two things side by side in literature? This is killing me.
Comparative?
No, yes, but there's a word for this. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Juxtaposition.
Yes, thank you. I was literally just teaching the kids that, and I forgot.
Who has a master's degree?
But like, there's blatant juxtaposition between all the other men, or a lot of the other men that Jenna like has deemed like gross men, and then who she deems like, he's a good dude, like, like gender
You're the
equality.
best man I've ever met.
I
Layla
know.
says to him at one point, and I'm like, are you forgetting your like father figure that is locked in a dungeon beneath your very feet, who has trained you to fight and protect yourself your whole life? Like,
There's a father
really,
figure?
Tobias is your best. Yeah, there's the guy. Remember that challenge? It's gonna be.
Oh yeah, the guy that he just disappeared and you never know what happens to him.
The one with the mask
that
like comes and tortures everyone. That guy is actually one of her mom's competitors during her mom's thing that her mom wasn't actually in love with, but he was really in love with her mom. And I don't know why, but Brontes decided that he didn't like that guy, and so he disfigured his entire body except for his face. That's why he wears that black mask over himself, and has him locked up in the dungeon. And
that's really dumb. I would
and
never.
Layla goes and visits him, and he taught Layla how to fight, and he's a real nice guy, but
that doesn't come. That is so strange, because
it is
the only scene you get of him then in this book is just him cutting into Tobias. Like a horror, chainsaw, Texas Chainsaw Massacre style. Like, that is not. That only feeds more into the whole Layla is like weirdly psychotic.
Yep.
So the thing about it is that, so this is my third time reading through the book, right? And so my reading of it this time, we should have done that at the very beginning. Like, hey, has your opinion on the book changed?
Yes, has your opinion on the book changed?
Has your guys' opinion on the book changed since?
Well, it's interesting. As my third time reading through it, I noticed this time problems more in the macro sense, in terms of like trends more than particular scenes. And so my criticisms are a little, I feel like, less nitpicky, but a little bit more are going to seem like more ad hominems against the writer, but they're not really. They're just more like I'm using Jenna or the author as like a metaphor for the overall or a shorthand for the overall view of the book, because I really do think in the book you start seeing just overall trends that are really dumb. So like for example, what you were saying, there's Val made the funniest comment in her review of this, that or maybe she just told me, I don't remember, that like a large part of this book is either Layla or Tobias doing something mildly polite and the other being completely overwhelmed by
Oh my
how romantic
God!
that is.
The bar's on the floor, ladies.
Yeah.
It reminded me. It's Senti Reads. It's Senti Reads, the Akamath. There's multiple points where Feyre in that book, and this is a perfect example of what you're talking about, where Feyre's like, I could tell he wanted me, but for my sake, because I was tired, he was gonna hold himself back. That's the only choice. Why are you, Feyre, why are you talking about him not ravishing you because you're either not in the mood or tired?
It's
As if it's a good he held himself back for me. Bitch!
look,
That's the floor.
it's really funny. It's because the author's hand is showing so hard when these ladies do this. Not
Yes.
just ladies, men too. Very
Yes.
rarely in my experience of reading books, but sometimes men too. But it's just really funny when it's a stand-in for their own like kink. And it's just like, and I'm like, but you can't, don't replace it with normalcy. That's
Yeah.
not normal.
So something for me as far as how my interaction with this book has changed is the years since reading it and all the other terrible stuff we read had me think a little fondly of Savior's Champions.
I was so excited to reread this.
Yeah, like because I was like,
oh,
it's bad, but it's fun bad. Like I remember when we read Save Your Sister, I was like, at least that book was kind of fun. And I'm gonna be honest, while it is not as bad as like the book that shall not be named, for it is problematic and terrible.
Oh,
This is still bad. It's pretty bad. And what just got me was how redundant, unnecessary, repetitive, and fucking boring this son of a bitch is. And on a
But
reread, it's painful.
yeah,
I don't know how
well,
Will has done it.
it's definitely lulls at a certain point. Now, question: are we going to reiterate the plot and go through scene by scene? Okay, cool. Please, because I want to get
I've
started
done
on
it.
that.
Yes, I've done it
Okay.
already. This is all on you, Katie. Let's go.
Come up with
All
some
right.
banger lines.
All right. Okay. So I can just. I'm going to give you my version
Just
of it.
go.
Okay, here we go. So
Just
first we start off with a highly straight. I would like to start off by saying, why the hell is Tobias a day worker in a sugarcane field using a scythe to cut sugarcane? So we've already said that. That's already been said a million times, but that still nags me. Also, why is he a day worker? I know that his family fell upon hard times. Okay, let me get into the plot. So anyway, we get introduced to Tobias. He is scything away sugarcane. Why? Who knows? And he really
not
wanted
the
to
author.
he really wanted to be an artist, and you immediately get this sense because after he walks, one of my favorite parts is how his boss or whatever, the guy that owns the land that pays him, scuttles from like shady tree to shady tree, and I just imagine like a little spider scuttling like across like cartoon style all the way up to Tobias. But anyway, and there's a lot of like strange illogical physical stuff, like for example Tobias like throws the fucking cane at him or something. It, like, it just literally physically can't happen.
We
And
broke this down in the prose of that one
Yes.
chapter we looked at. Go ahead and check that out.
Immediately I'm like, wow, this feels very unreal. Like I feel already like it's not proving itself to me. It's not ingratiating me into the world.
It feels like AI.
I guess it doesn't. I wouldn't say that necessarily.
The weird
but
word choices that don't actually
Yes.
fit the thing.
yes, that part.
Jenna
for sure.
throughout the book has this thing where it feels often like it's being written by a space alien who kind of knows that two words are connected, like in terms of the meaning, but doesn't fully understand their connotations, and she'll just put one in, and you're like, Like more than anything, you usually see this with writers who aren't native English speakers.
Yeah.
You usually kind of see this like slight offness, but she has it quite a lot.
Yeah, we actually had a viewer. She's no longer a viewer, but a long time ago when I was working with her on her work, English was a second language for her, and she, for example, used the verb clomped for a sound that should not have been a clomp. But I understand why she did
It
it
makes
because of the
sense.
motion of it. So yeah, so that kind of stuff happens, and then we're immediately like, just like our faces just shoved into um narration, just pure unadulterated info dumping of what the world is instead of it being beautifully crafted in this scene. Tobias is walking through town. This is the perfect moment for us to see culture, to see that Greek influence that we're supposed to be able to notate as we go through the story. But instead, we just get info dumped about the Savior's champion, or not the Savior, the champion thing a little bit, the Savior background, why, who, what she is, and then like the country, all of which is incredibly boring and not even remotely fun to get introduced to.
Nope.
And then we know Tobias wanted to be an artist because he passes by an art stall and he's like, art.
Mi amor.
Wish I could do that. But that doesn't make any sense to me. It's because he probably could have sold his art for. So Tobias was a student of like a master. It does not make sense to me. Why wouldn't he just sell artwork if he's known to be a student of a great master? Like, couldn't he just pursue the artwork and sell the paintings or do portraiture for richer people? And that's how he could, if he's that good.
How would he build up muscle to be strong enough to engage in physical activity later if he did the sensible thing? Katie.
Also, why don't him and his mom swap? Because his mom is still of an age, like still could work and stuff. And if they swap days, he could do art. Because if he's doing art, he just is home with his sister, and
Yes!
he can just take care. Like, let me tell you, as far as like creative survival, zero,
None.
zero.
Yeah.
And this is not because like the text is gonna want you to think Tobias is smart. He's smart boy, and what the author wants is for this to be a real sad situation. Tobias, real sad boy in real sad life in real sad house with his poor sister and mother.
But instead, it's just really dumb.
Yes.
There's a part later where not Jenna, Layla will be like, it's so sad when people can't do the things they want to in life. Like, you know, she's talking about, you're supposed to be like, oh, she's talking about her because she can't actually be the queen she wants. But I'm like, you know, somebody's got to do the sugarcane. It's not like, how about some solidarity with minimum wage workers, which is essentially what he is. And it's
so
like, yeah, like you said, it's just so he's like super sad, as
super sad.
Maria would say.
But not just that. To the other point, because Katie's asked why. Why does he have to be a day laborer? For why? You want to know why, Katie? Because if he was just a regular boy, soft boy artist,
He wouldn't
get through the fucking tournament. Even so, we're going to talk a lot about the insanity for
The
how
laurels.
Tobias gets the insanity for how Tobias gets as far as he does, given. But the one thing she did is she was like, I need the soft boy artist to also be like toned enough to make it through the physical aspects of the thing.
Easy solution.
So that's why he's a day laborer.
Easy solution. One of two things. Instead of making it like, I mean, these are just first two things that come to mind, right? So it's kind of like shallow. But first, why not make it that dad had a whole bunch of debts, so he has to work for somebody else, and so that's why he can't be an artist. It's because he has to pay off the debts, and they don't give a shit about the art thing, or they don't think he's good enough. I don't know. Whatever you want to do with the art thing, maybe he never finished his apprenticeship, and so he still has to pay alms towards that and finish his apprenticeship, but he can't now. So now he's being like, you know, indentured servitude by somebody his dad owed money to, or something like that. That would make sense. Or better yet, the challenges are supposed to take forever. Like, it's supposed to be a month. Sure, like, make it a little longer. Make it a few months. Make it into a real thing that happens over the course of a year. And then throughout that time, he gets stronger. And it's like, you know, that's how he gets better at what he's doing. Or better yet, don't worry about strength. Fix the issues in other ways.
It's okay. So we're going to talk about this a lot. There's a lot of author fiat in this book where Jenna just does things and writes things, and there's not a lot of real world logic applied to it. And it's one of these things where it makes the world feel unreal, and it also makes the book feel real preachy at times because none of this feels like it's really happening. It feels like Layla. I'm gonna keep messing the two of them up, and there's a reason for why I am doing that. Jenna just kind of is moving the characters around the plot like in little cups or something. Um, but yes, we might have to move through the plot a little faster than that, Katie.
Okay, fine. Fine.
Continue.
Okay, let me continue then. So anyway, we get introduced to Tobias's lame and uninterested, like, go watch Will and I's breakdown. There's so much I want to say about the weird interaction that happens when he enters the home. Anyway, so Tobias's friend Milo comes around and he's like, "Yo, I got the hots for your sister, but also I'm gonna join the Saviors tournament, because who wouldn't want to be the ruler of this kingdom by marrying a hot lady that shines in the light and can heal things with her hands, and also money." And so he tells Tobias, "Come on, let's do this." And Tobias, for some reason, is like, "No." At the beginning, and it also is introduced in a way where it feels like this has been a conversation that's come up before, and it really hasn't. Tobias has shown no interest in this, so his mother brings it up like this has been an argument, and it's like, no, he doesn't really care. So it's so weird and awkward.
Again, the author fiat that Will was talking about, the Jenna is really set on her characters always having the morally correct the characters she likes always having the morally correct point of view. So a death competition where 20 men go in and one comes out and the rest die, that's no good. And also, just for a woman you've never met before, so you don't know her, how could you love her? Why would you do that? You don't even know her. And so that's dumb. And so despite it should be a cultural. This was something Will and I spoke about, that there are cultural norms that we grow up with. I'm going to use myself as an example of the exception making the rule. I, prior to the age of like 24, had never seen a Super Bowl game, but I knew what it was. I understood the hype, and if somebody had offered me tickets, I would go because it is a big
Yeah, that's a
cultural,
great comparison.
national. But I myself, I've never watched football. I have now. I now have a team. This is what happens when you date someone who's loved a team since he was like 2.
Toxic
And
masculinity. Sports ball is not good for anyone. It causes injuries to the players, and it promotes a toxic
yes,
masculine
my
ideal.
favorite player is injured currently, and he hasn't been
Which
able to play. And I
makes
love
it a
him.
great parallel. Also, as a side note, somebody said Tulila Salome. If he's an artist, why not a also a great point. That would have been
Super buff.
and it would have been so hot for that scene where he does like he could have done Layla's boobs, like sculpting them, and with the
He
pert
can't
nipples.
sculpt in
and-
12 hours. No, you can't do that. That's not how sculpting works.
Give him more than 12 hours. Give him a week. Like, what? Change the timeline. That's easy.
So again, the overall problem here is like Maria said, cultural norms. And the thing is that Jenna is totally uninterested in doing that. She's only interested in applying her own morality to things. This is again a thought that I talked through with Val, so some of this is her credit or whatever. But like we talked about how this is basically like a middle school, like imagine a middle school TV show or a high school TV show that somebody then wrote
Yes.
fanfic of in a Hunger Games meets Spartacus meets The Bachelor setting. And that is a lot of this book. This book has an extremely juvenile high school view of
It
the
is
world.
So unsettling.
It is,
It's
and
so
the thing
unsettling.
is, if this was a middle school book, you would be like, oh, you shouldn't judge people by their jobs in life. You should judge them by who they are. Oh, that's kind of that's a kind of cute moral for 12-year-olds. You know what I mean? But like this book has a lot of sex and violence in it, and clearly wants to be like a lusty, romantic type book. And so the juvenileness of the themes and the characters really do not match up to the rest of the content. Also, I'm just gonna say it, a lot of this book feels like high school revenge.
Oh my God.
It
like-
does.
Okay, so can I? Let's.
Yeah,
'cause
no,
we
keep
can
going.
get there.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So anyway, Uh, in the end, Tobias ends up waiting in line, a very long line, in order to sign up for the tournament, skipping a whole bunch of redundant plot
And him
pieces in between.
deciding, going from no, I'd never do that, that's dumb, to yes, I will do that.
And the way she portrays it too is really silly because all it is like intrusive thoughts. He's just like, you could do it for the money. No, I shan't do it for the money. You can do it for the money. No, I shan't do it for the money. I can do it for the money. I'm doing it for the money.
For
Let's
the money.
go. It took like
It's
3
the
tries.
dumbest scene, because that's exactly how it happens, where it's like, but for your family, no, I won't do it. Fuck it, I'm doing it. And I'm like, what
There
is
is
just,
there's
what?
no real event. Nothing particularly changes other than the fact that his sister's in a lot of pain, but she's always in a lot of pain. So that's
But not just that. The scene where she has a lot of pain is 3 scenes before. It's not like
Yes.
his sister has the pain and then he's like, fuck it, I'm doing it. It was a couple of scenes ago, a bunch of other stuff where he was like, no, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not doing it. So Katie's 100% correct. In the moment where he goes from doing it, not doing it, to deciding he's doing it, nothing
So-
happens.
When I was reading that, I was like, wow, this is so lazy. I was like, there was no attempt at making this an interesting, complex moment of how he changes his whole philosophy of it's a life or death situation. He's just like, yeah, no, I changed my mind. I'm gonna do it. Anyway, so he goes, and then they like measure his penis and they measure his muscles and stuff like that when they like bathe it, or they decide that he can be one of the competitors, and so they just basically measure him up like a meat stick.
So I have interesting evidence to kind of bring at this point. And this again comes from Val. Let's give her due. Yesterday, she figured out, she looked at how many times the word cock is used in the book and made them down into, there we go. So as a verb,
Oh my
64
god,
times.
stop it!
As an insult, 22 times. As a just another word for penis, we have 53, and then peacock, we have 1. And there may be a margin of error of about 1, because sometimes people cock their heads.
Wait, who
But-
did this?
Val.
Val.
Val! That's so funny! The peacock edition at the bottom!
There's 1. Yeah, no,
One.
it's true. So, like, that should give you an idea of, like, the amount this book is obsessed with boobs and with penises.
No,
is
but it's like-
absurd.
It's like my humor. Like, I do that tongue in cheek to act like a teenage boy sometimes because that's like, it's sarcasm, it's the joke, which doesn't always hit because it's dumb humor. And so to have that as the actual personality types of people is very, like,
Oh,
cartoony.
okay, we'll get to talking about Jenna's man hate later, but there is an extent to which, again, it's like, again, this feels like high school. Like, guys are so gross, they're always making dick jokes. And you're
And
like,
they're always
"Eh."
talking about their cocks. And
That's literally
Boobs.
so Tobias, the competition begins. Okay, by the way, so what a wild concept that they go underground for the majority. Why are they going underground?
the labyrinth?
Yes.
The
Why are
labyrinth, you say?
That's a
Why-
tunnel.
Yes, that's just a tunnel, like a giant. Like I was picturing the for any of you that's watched SpongeBob, I was just picturing the bullworms hideout where like it's the bullworm, just one big tunnel. But anyway, like it's really unimaginative. It's because it's like, oh, so you wanted it to be in a place where you didn't have to describe things. You just wanted rock everywhere.
I didn't think of that, but it's true.
It is. It's because she never describes anything in a way that makes a lot of sense. Like, why not have, like, also, why is it all down there? If I was picturing when I began the book that the tournament would be like Harry Potter, like, and the Goblet of Fire, where there was like different locations and shit.
And it was
And, like-
visual, and people watched, and they were in
Yes!
the stands outside
Yes!
of 3
It's
challenges.
it makes more sense to me. Why wouldn't they? I thought for sure it was going to go. Now, granted, this would have been cliche, but I thought it was going to go where they were going to be in like a coliseum at first, and then all the weaklings were going to get picked off just by pure brutality. So the first thing is just physical force, and then from there you must be smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter because you need a smart leader, but also a strong one. So pick off the weak ones, then go for the smartest of the group that can still handle themselves physically. So I thought surely that's what it was going to go. No, they're just in this tunnel, and Immediately, one of the other, because there are different groups of like genres of men. Like you have like the savants, which is like the artist and what is it? The intellectual, the
Jester,
intellect, the jester, which is dumb.
the
And then
doctor.
yeah, and the idea of those
The
in
physician, yeah.
themselves, yes, and the idea of that in itself is not like the worst. But again, I come back to the point. Tobias is a day laborer at this point. Why is he being picked as an? I know why, because he's like, I'm an artist, but he's not anymore. So it doesn't really make any sense that everybody else is their job, but he's not his
Why
job.
isn't he in a stalwart like
Yes.
category? Because those are the farmers and the laborers, and then you have the beasts, which are the guys that have
Who are the evil ones,
swords.
clearly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then you have except for one. There's one beast that's actually a heckin' nice good boy, and his name's Enzo, and who disappears. Like there's so many characters that you start developing relationships for, and then
And then
the
just
book's
fuck
like,
off.
I'm just gonna kill them before anything significant happens, and you're like, what a waste of time. Yeah, a huge thing that I think Will and I touched on in our review, and I'd just like to say here, there's two huge issues. One, if they're allowed to kill people willy-nilly with zero consequence, why on earth don't you just kill them all in battle royale immediately in the tunnels? Because initially you go in and you think, oh, there's going to be challenges. You can't kill people outside of the challenges. That makes sense. Nope, you can
No,
kill
it doesn't
you
matter.
can kill people whenever you want. Then why does this last so long? Are you telling me guys that come out the gate immediately start killing people are going to be like, you know what? It's sleep time. I'm not just going to murder people right now. You know, everybody's sleeping. We're going to respect the law of sleep.
No, but
Tense.
that's where I'm saying, like, that's where the Hunger Games is successful. It's because the format of it, while absurd, makes sense. It's a battle royale. You kill the person you find in the forest or wherever you're at. So that makes sense. But this, it's like, what? So may I continue on?
So
Yes.
I will say one thing, and I am. We'll talk about this a little bit more with the challenges, and I am loath to give it any credit. But one book this did remind me of is the, like you were saying, the Goblet of Fire, Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, that book, there is a lot, the challenges are actually so much fun. There's so much emotional energy built up to each one. There's not a ton of them. There's only like 3 or 4, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
There's other stuff going on. They're actually kind of like creative, and Harry has to come up with like creative ways of
Harry has to
succeeding.
come up with.
Well, okay, Harry gets handed a lot of creative things. That's the part of the series where he starts coasting on other people, but we're not
Yes.
supposed to know. But like, and Jenna is not able to do that with any of these challenges. There's too many, and they're all really stupid. And they all also, except for one, have to do with physical prowess. So again, why everyone isn't just beasts all the time is a really odd decision.
Like if they were genuinely going to be like, okay, we're actually looking for a well-rounded ruler, then there should have been like way more strategy games, way more, like hell, we could have had like physical chess, which combines like the mental rigors of chess with the physicality. They're not to steal from J.K. Rowling, but because nobody wants to do that, because why would we?
Boba.
Gross. Anyway, and so like there's just like, why is any of that? Why do we have smart people or creative people if there's only one to be creative and one to show intelligence challenge, and outside of that, fuck all.
But also, like, it just doesn't. I guess you can make it pulpy by making it absurd in those ways. So there is room for wiggling there, but also this person's supposed to be a leader in the future. There's this one scene later on where these dignitaries from other places are there, and it's like really dumb.
Oh,
I know it's so
God.
like they never come up again. They're not important. Like even though we're given time with them to the point where it seems like one of them in particular is gonna be like instrumental in some way, or at least a character. And no, and so like why don't we have a competition where there are dignitaries and your goal is to earn points from the dignitaries and go around and like schmooze or something like any of that? That would have been so fascinating. Anyway, let's move on.
Why isn't this a competition amongst amongst royalty from other lands and
Yes!
specific royalty from this land to become the leader of Thesson. Like, there's so much shit where I'm like, or why isn't it used as a chance for people in other kingdoms to get spies in here for, like, this book is so uninterested in doing anything that would actually, like, Will and I made the comment that as a way to pick who is going to stand next to your
God Queen.
next to your god queen, this is a terrible way to pick someone. Like,
Yeah.
you're basically ensuring violence, because that's what you're, and like, we made the argument that maybe it started that way, but then it should have developed, and now it was like kind of like a it had gone. Have either of you watched Oku? About what happens in Japan when there's a plague that kills off a ton of men, and so, like, there's a huge shift, and now, like, women are in the ruling class and there's significantly less men, and it's
Is
fascinating
that the
because
downfall of Japan?
no,
Did that start that era?
no, it's really interesting because they show you that what would this do to the concept of the men in a royal court in this, and it's fascinating. But at least it's engaging with the thing, how things change and
The regent
develop.
the regent really should be a figurehead that's kind of like a shogun type of a thing where, like, or he's the emperor while the shogun actually kind of rules type of a thing where it's like whoever wins the tournament, that's nice, but the ruling class is the one who's actually going to decide what's going to happen, like the senators or something like that.
Yep.
No, Jenna is uninterested in world building to a degree that's fascinating because, again, she's only interested in her high school revenge. And it's a bit like how we talked about how Yaros really should have just made Fourth Wing like in the modern day. Not that that necessarily would fix all the problems with this book, but I almost feel like she kind of should have done that as well because she's clearly not that interested in this making sense.
It really feels like they're trying to stick a square block in a triangle hole or something like that, like you're trying to make it fit into something that it isn't. Why don't you anyway, so may I continue now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so anyway, I'm going to jump over some stuff because you could always go back into Maria and Will's reevaluations of it or first, whatever. So, immediately one person is brutally murdered, which I was just like, oh, okay, so we're just going to kill someone immediately for the dumbest reason, and make people very morally not great immediately, so that way Tobias seems to stand out even more so as a good boy. And
so much of this book is that.
Yes.
The bars in hell.
So immediately Milo's gonna die because he's there as well, and when he dies,
keep going.
When he dies, it is so abruptly gruesome that I actually had fun with that part. It's because I was like, oh my god, because literally the description, right? So morally horrible people, one person's just being a dick, literally, that's just it, and he pushes Milo into a trap, and the trap is this giant block, which, again, what is powering this mechanism? But anyway, yes, and it literally smashes him into the wall, and as it retracts, you see the gooey insides of his, like, entrails and, like, meat, like, off the wall, and I'm like, oh, what? This is kind of, like, almost slapstick horror. Like, this is, like, so hammy, and I'm like, I'm here for that.
And the problem is, because Moresi, Katie made a point about you can do this where it's like pulpy, slapsticky horror, like not horror. That's not the term.
What, body horror?
Not body horror, like violence. The gore.
Yes.
So slapsticky, that kind of thing, kind of like something against Evil Dead. What's that movie you made me watch? Tucker and Dale.
Tucker and Dale versus and Dale versus Evil. Yes, a great movie.
And the thing about that is it's very, like, slapsticky in its violence. I have a huge issue with watching violence, as Katie and William both know. But it's very slapsticky. And the problem with this is this thing happens. It's described in a way, and then Tobias is immediately like,
but it's like trauma.
whoa,
and it's
me.
and he immediately gets super angry at the person who murdered him, understandably so. And then he gets his ass handed to him. And so this guy's name is Kaleo, and he is the foil for Tobias because he's just wantonly like evil, basically, and just loves violence. But yeah, no, it's I would have enjoyed. So there is a lot of gore throughout
Wait,
this.
wait. I'm back, and I just want to say that you pronounced
Your audio
it like
has
wonton. Is that
Wanton.
having problems?
Yeah, you sound like butt now, out of nowhere. You weren't
Rude.
before, but
Okay, is that better?
yes, it's better. Where is my? Oh God, where's my thing? Sorry.
Okay.
Boo.
So
Wadzani says, "Sorry, were you referring to Oku, the inner chambers, when you're talking about the show where women become rulers in Japan?" Exactly the one.
yes,
That's
yes, that is
exactly the
correct.
one.
Yes. But yeah. So go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask if it was historical or like.
No. It's a historical
Alternate
fiction.
history.
What happened? What would happen if? And then
Yeah.
Oh, so Japan fails to reach the heights they did in this world.
Okay,
Oh
just
my God, shut up, William.
shut the fuck up.
Anyway, so the
Continue.
point is that yeah, no, like Kaleo could kill Tobias at this point, but he's evil. Or no, not evil, excuse me. He's the Joker character in this story. And in some ways I think I almost like this is me just like throwing in the dark. But I almost feel like I was gonna call her Stephanie Meyer. Shame, we're all just getting names mixed up. I feel like Jenna actually vaguely had the hots for Kaleo because there's just too much screen time that he gets. He gets so much screen time
She's
for
so
no
fond
reason.
of him as a character.
She's so into him.
I know.
Like she's like, oh, look at this excellent villain. I just
He cuts in his skin the number of people that he's killed, which, okay, that's fine. I mean,
Also,
I've seen that before.
Can we once again the voice the audiobook narrator gives him is so
Oh my God!
Oh,
I
Tobias!
don't think that we're going to Tobias. What about cock? That was a little flamboyant, but
yeah, but
But
that's
that
how he
Tobias!
is. He's like
Wait, do it, Maria.
there's one part where he's like, he's so handsome, I'll fuck him bloody. And I'm like,
Oh my God, yes! That part, I was like, what? Ew, that's so
why
gross.
are we doing this? Why? But the thing is, the voice actor uses a caricature of a gay foppish voice.
yes.
Which is what makes it as problematic as it becomes. I mean, there's
Yes.
obvious there's issues, but it's just
I will say, usually though, the voice actor adds so much to this book. The voice actor makes it so much more pleasant to listen to. But yeah, I'm not quite sure why he chose Fancy Man for
Yeah.
Kaleo's.
I think it's
weird.
because he was just supposed to be handsome, and like, there's only so many voices you can do, so maybe that's why. I don't know.
Maybe.
But anyway, so we learned that there are certain places where they have like safety to some degree, or at least the evil tunnel and all the things in it are going to come after them.
evil tunnel.
And so like it's so hard to imagine, guys, if you haven't read the book, the way it's described, it's just like this video game like blur of like a scene. It's like there's like some type of like crevice or something, so it's like an island of rock someplace, I think, and then they go there and there's this light, and the light is opalescent, and you're like protected for like, I don't know, it just seems like a little over the top for no reason.
It's
Okay, but we're about to meet a character that I want to see how Katie introduces Layla.
Okay. Okay, so this entire book, I pictured Layla. So, okay, anyway, enter scene. We get our very important female love interest, Layla. Layla is Raven from Teen Titans. That's all I can picture. The way her thighs, her milky thighs, are described immediately, and the way like she has like a hood on, and you can see her milky thighs through her like cape thing, and I'm just
she's
like,
got black hair.
yeah, like I was
face.
literally picturing Raven from Teen Titans the whole time, and I just like, so that like weirded me out. But anyway, so yeah, so she enters scene as a healer, and her and then her sister Delphi, who is there just to lube men up. Like literally, Delphi is only job is to lube men up with oil and to like I don't know. Is she there to like excite their loins? It's
No,
because why
she's
else
there.
is she like, like
The worst part is she's not supposed to be there. The way Layla, Delphi, and oh, what's her name?
Pippa.
Pippa
Pippa, by
function.
the way, is so much more problematic here on my third
Yes.
reading. Like, it's now just even grosser.
yes.
But the whole thing that you have to remember is that these women are not supposed to be here. They don't actually have any specific jobs. It feels like a bunch of teenage girls being like, "We're gonna sneak in and watch the boys, but how are we gonna justify being there? Oh, I'll be the oil lady, and I'll rub them with oil so they'll be shiny for challenges."
And also you'll smell good. Like what a weird choice to make. Like, yeah, I'm going to pretend to be down here. My pretend job is to lube you guys. I feel like she just wanted to touch men. Like a lot of men.
And yet she's the lesbian character. Like, what are we doing? I don't understand. Anyway,
Yes.
continue, Katie.
Yes. So anyway, Layla's the healer, and she has her called medicine. They're not called poultices. They're not called anything terminological. No, they're called potions. There are her potions and her clay. She has clay and potions that she gives people so that way they heal. And I was just like, wow, that was incredibly uninspiring. Like, there's not even an attempt at explaining how healing works in this world or all this other stuff. And also how she just like carrying around clay everywhere. Like, how much clay does she have?
Just
Like,
jars. Why?
yeah, but anyway. So, yes. So from here on out, we have a series of
Wait. You have to mention how Tobias and Layla meet for the first time. Their beautiful romantic meeting.
Oh God, I gotta think about that for a second. Hold on a minute.
Accuses him of murder.
Oh yeah, that's like the dumbest turn ever. That's why I deleted it from my brain. So like for some reason, even though it's very obvious that these dudes would have blood on them and everything, Tobias is covered in blood. Nobody else is covered in blood. He obviously just got the shit beat out of him. So why she would think that this blood isn't necessarily his, I don't know. But yeah, so she sees him covered in blood. He's like, "You're the murderer. You killed people. You're so evil. You're so bad. You're a piece of shit." And then like she's like really nasty to him, and he just saw his best friend die, and it's like kind of scarring. And then he's like, no, actually, and corrects her. Sorry, my dog's barking. And corrects her. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I made a mistake. My bad. And they just like roll over that. If this were interesting, he would have held a grudge against her and thought she was a bitch. Like,
the whole
why?
time.
Yes.
Or
Why?
At least for a bit.
Oh,
It feels like the author wanted to do a meet cute, like a little bit of tension, but immediately couldn't handle it and tried to like have them be friends because it's insta love to begin with. Yeah, I was about to quote
Sorry,
that.
I keep all of you that have watched that video 100 times. What Katie probably isn't noticing, but in the chat, people keep quoting the things we said during these specific points in the first book. So one of the ones I said was, so Eugene Bezpalko, as Marie once said, "You're the problem with society." I said that's what Layla said to.
It's such an iconic. You have so many iconic lines.
I know, but you had the But what's your name? I think Val or someone quoted that earlier. Sorry, it's giving me life to see that popping up here, guys. Continue, Katie. So, she's a dick.
Yeah, no, she's immediately a jerk, and it's completely unsubstantiated. Like, there's no reason she should have jumped to these conclusions at all, in my opinion. There's really nothing founded on that. It's just literally author's hand showing immediately.
Yep.
And honestly, I think I deleted this part of the book from my mind a lot because all I have is a blur of images of the oh my God. Okay, also, can I just say, so while they're in the camp, like the Baldur's Gate camp, basically. That's basically what this is. Where you get to talk to everybody and not die, hopefully. So
this is the save point.
Yes, exactly. And so they are given tents and stuff like that, and they're bonding and shit, I guess. And you're getting to know some of the other characters, and you're introduced to this card game, which is a memory game. And I'm like, okay, this sounds like a really interesting game, actually. It would have been fun if it was actually utilized in an interesting way instead of the dumbass way. Literally, first of all, the foreshadowing's so heavy, it's insane. You're like, okay, so obviously this is going to be a game later on. Okay, got it. Like, okay, stop bringing it up. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I don't want to hear how good Tobias is at it, and I don't want to hear how bad his new best friend is. Whose name the prince. That's all I remember. I don't even remember his fucking name.
Flynn.
It's
The
fine.
very
Flynn.
Greek-coded name.
Oh,
I was just-
man.
Literally picturing Flynn from Tangled, the entire Flynn Rider, the entire time. Anyway, yes, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, how would you describe the fellow competitors of Tobias? And bear in mind for a moment that Layla, the savior that they're, fighting all this for, is essentially like the Pope of that world, essentially.
Yes, the Jesus, really.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so characters. We've got the bear or whatever, right? There was a beast called the
Bjorn.
bear or something. Yeah, Bjorn, that's right.
Bjorn.
And so you really, honestly, the beasts are so not elaborated on. So except for like a few of them, we have the dragon, which is a really big dude who's undefeated. You have Kaleo, which is like the murdering,
The shepherd. The shepherd.
the shepherd, right? Which is wild. That you know what? Also, none of these laurels actually matter. And if you're going to use these things, use them for a reason, so that way they have a greater symbolic meaning or something for the character. Because
World building.
that could be used if Kaleo had actually been a deceiver and he shepherds, but he's the wrong shepherd for he's taking the flock like where it's a negative spin. That would have been a nice little whatever going on there. But no, nothing that mature or crafty. But yeah, so then we also have like the savants. The Joker or whatever, Jester, was like immediately his face was slammed into the ground and pulverized in the first 5 seconds of the wormhole.
First
And
death.
yes, and then we have the intellect, who's just smart, I guess. Like you don't get a lot of him either.
Raphael.
Italian coded.
Yeah, and then you got Enzo, who's my personal favorite. He's part of one of the other things. I just like him because I like him.
He's the beast, right? He's the dog.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
he's-
he's
I
a
will say-
hunter, right?
No, that's
No.
Orion. I will
Oh,
say
that's right.
Enzo is the one character where her pulpy cock talk actually kind of would work if it was in a book on its own. Like if this was a thing that only he did, it would be kind of funny. But the problem is that everybody talks that way, so it's not as funny as she thinks
Literally.
it is.
Okay, look, I just really want to get to the part I really want to talk about, which is when
Okay.
Go ahead.
Cosima gets introduced.
Go
Go.
ahead.
A bunch of challenges happen. People
Yes,
die or
a
don't
bunch
die.
of dumb challenges happen. There's this one where, like, I don't remember what order it goes in, but like the cave fills with water, and they have to like work to open the thing, and he makes friends with one or the other, and then they immediately get killed. And that's basically rinse, wash, repeat. He makes a vague friend, they immediately get murdered. Makes a friend, immediately gets murdered. So anytime there's any like character development, she's like, you know what, this is too tough for me. I don't really feel like developing this character. I think I'll just kill them off. And that's
Fuck 'em.
basically the vibe.
Get
So-
to the titties.
We finally get to a part where Kazuma is introduced, and they all go into like this weird waiting room. That's what I'm picturing. I'm picturing like an interrogation chamber, except for on one side it's like a plush couch and
No.
chair.
Do you know what it reminded me of? Those weird empty room sections when you're waiting to get into a ride at Disney.
Yes, that's really funny.
That is, or like the what's it called? The preset before pornography is made, where they just like interview the girl on the couch
Oh.
or on a chair, and it's like, yeah. Anyway, that's the vibe. And Kazuma immediately, just her boobs. That's all you see. That's all you are told is her delicious boobs, and everybody says something about it. They're like, "Oh my god, the boobs!" And it's like, why? Why is this a woman writing this?
Of course she'd be the savior. Have you seen those tits? Says
Oh.
one of the royals
Okay,
at some
all right.
point.
Okay. First of all, I can fix Cosima. But secondly, this is okay. I can fix her. But secondly, this is one of the places where the author's really ugly view of other people kind of comes to the front because Tobias immediately judges Cosima as vapid and terrible, even though there's no real reason to besides that she's pretty and has the titties. Like, there is a level of, again, this is where it's like high school. Like, everyone's high school coded, like, oh, she's vapid, so of course she has big titties. Like, that's kind of how it works.
Yep. And you're completely correct because there's not even a moment where he's like, "Wow, she is enchantingly beautiful," and even
It's not.
vaguely interested in her. Even just a, I'd like to get to know her. At least if I
No,
have to
they all just want to
die,
fuck
if
her.
I have to marry someone, But except for Tobias, who's like, "But who is she?
Oh my god.
What's your
What are the
name?
secrets of her heart?
Also, it doesn't make
What
any
are
sense
her
that.
views on murder? I don't know."
Oh yeah,
No,
politics.
no. They go, everybody can ask her a question. Everybody asks her a question. And at the end, Tobias is like, what's
What's your name?
name? And everyone's like, oh my God, I
Oh
would
my-
never have thought that she's a person.
Oh my god, it's so.
With a
uh,
name.
That would actually been a good play if the questions were like really actually interesting questions, and so they were just like, because it would make sense then. A lot of people overthinking the question and then being like,
Yes.
what is your view for the future of you and your husband? What do you expect to do? What's your goal for
Tax
the kingdom?
policy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that type of stuff. That would have made more sense if they
Sense.
asked questions relevant to their backgrounds, and so that's what they were overthinking, and so they never even thought to ask. So that is realistic. It's just not played off that way, and.
Yeah.
What's kind of dumb as well is just like Tobias from was already this way, but he's very holier than thou. The way he is written, himself, he isn't necessarily holier than thou, although it certainly does come out that way. Like it's the writer making him better than everybody else, and it's like it's so obvious. And it's and it would have been nice also just to point out like other aspects of her. I literally don't know what she looks like except for that she has huge boobs, they're shiny. She has
And red hair.
yes, that's all I
Yeah.
know. I don't know if she has a button nose. I don't know if she has a long hooked nose. I don't know if she has full lips.
Is she a tall bitch? Is she a short bitch? Like what? No. Boobs. And again,
Also,
as someone who is weirdly like pro Cosima, and like in the way where if you watched our second video, I kind of go into, I just hate how we just immediately like he's like, fuck this bitch. I think Valerie made the apt comment of Tobias immediately clocks the wickedness wafting off those titties, and it's just
Yep.
like, why are we coding this like women don't have enough problem, we are coding very feminine and like what we considered like a hyper feminine feature
Yeah.
and a large like glorified
as
like,
belonging to an inherently like vapid person just because
Person?
it's looks.
what like
And there's a point
Jenna
later.
Moresi. Who hurt you? Did somebody you like pick a
Yes,
girl with
looks
big
like
boobs
that.
over
Mean
you?
Girls. Yes,
Like
yes.
is it and did she have red hair? I'm not saying that she had to have red hair. You might have been like, I'll make her red haired because she actually has like blonde hair. But like, who hurt you, my girl? Because
Yes.
this girl on girl hate. It's fucking rough out here. I don't
And the
like
thing
it.
about it is, again, it's immediately treated as though, it's like how in old movies when somebody has like a lisp, they're coded as evil. You know what I mean? Because like that was a societal gay people are
Yeah.
evil or whatever. Or if you have a scar, you're coded as evil immediately. And
Mhm.
it's like big titties are like, oh, that's coded as evil. And the thing is, I actually, again, I have a certain amount, like obviously I don't think if you were to take it like factually that what Cosima does in the book is good. But like I have a certain amount of empathy for her, especially because, and Lindbergh mentioned this, the meta narrative of the book is making such a strong point about no one carrying a fuck about Cosima beyond her exterior and her sexual attributes. And it is like that. Like everyone, and she even mentions at one point that nobody really seems to see her, and so when he writes a poem about her, she's like really into it. And so
So fascinating to explore. And also, Kazuma is such a massive point in this entire book because you think she's the savior for the majority of it. And yet, she never appears at the end. She's no longer relevant because now we know Layla Good Girl is actually truly the savior. So Kazuma is just like literally shoved off. She's hooked off stage. Like, there is no her.
How much more interesting would this book have been if instead of being so like if initially Casima's because the idea is that you get between this book and the second book is Casima has her entire life been objectified and has learned to grab what she can given what she's got. You know, like there's a system that she's a part of and she plays it as best as she can to better her position in society. And how much more interesting would this book have been if, after realizing with Tobias that wasn't working, that relying on the physicality, the boobs, wasn't working, if she actually just ended up being a person to him, and while he wasn't in love with her because he was in love with Layla, there was actually some sympathy and care
There's
toward Cosima. You know,
There's
like, and
a
that
couple of nice ways that that could have gone too. You can either go the route where she breaks down and she opens up a little bit, and so she, in a way, maybe shallowly falls in love with Tobias just because of that allowance for her. And when Layla, of course, is in the way as an object of his affection, she could have lashed out in that way, and it would have justified maybe some of her choices in why she is like kind of betraying her. Or you can go the route where she's just like, oh wow, you're not like an awful human being, and actually in the end helps Layla. Like, I don't really under it. Kazuma is such a misused pawn in the story because there is nothing important to her in the end,
Yep.
and she isn't even a real character. She's literally a set piece.
It's
or what
again,
if
there's
you
huh?
go
No,
you go
there's a
first.
very strong high school revenge aspect to Cosima, and the thing about Jenna is that and this is something that I've kind of realized over 3 years, is that there are authors who have empathy for their characters, and there are authors who don't. Some authors, you can tell just reading it that they have empathy for their characters. They like all the little guys in their head, even if they're doing bad things, and they care about why they're doing things. And they're willing to look at other viewpoints and consider them and consider other ones. But this whole thing plays out very much like a morality play, where you start realizing that Moresi's values are like a little bit off. So again, there's the fact that Cosima is painted in a worse way than she actually is. And so, okay, and this is, well, actually, you can talk about it quickly because I have to talk about my thesis with sexuality in this book. But did you want to say anything really quickly? Because I did cut you
Yeah.
off.
So I was just gonna say, um, what if Cosima had actually been in love with Flynn, like and then it went into a stage of depression at the end because Flynn just keeps talking about how much he loves her as the savior and the savior, and then if there's a moment where
Yes,
she
that
has
makes her a real
that
person.
one night with Tobias where she's like trying to do the physical thing to maybe like get back at because she knows Layla's gonna get what she wants and she can't have what she is gonna have because
Yes.
either Flynn's dying or he's marrying Layla. And if there's a moment where she cries and she says like, I thought this competition was going to be my first chance for people to see me outside of all the shadow that I've been on, the shadow of Layla, the shadow of the expectations,
Hmm.
and I would be, and I just can't have it. And for him and her to be like having and unintentionally having the same a conversation about like they're being pushed down a path and they can't have what they actually want. Him thinking about Layla not knowing she's the savior, her thinking about like what a cool moment, and for him to walk away and be like, you know what, I'm not in love with Cosima, but I got you, girl. I'll do what I can for you. You know,
And
like
also, it would give credence also to Flynn. It's because if Flynn like originally is like, yeah, it's the savior. Obviously, I want to be with the savior, and then it becomes more material, not material, but like as in more textured in the like nuances of why he might actually like her or not. If you wanted to make it a double romance, that is, but you don't even have to do that. You don't even have to make him like her, like truly. It's more about Kazuma and what she wants. It's because she's the bigger character there between her and Flynn. Also, Flynn used as like he's definitely used again as a piece, and it's just I mean, they're all used, I guess. It's from here on out, by the way, guys, where it just flops. Like it then goes from focusing on the action. I know, Will, you want to talk about the sexuality stuff. I'm just
Yeah,
summarizing.
no, keep going.
Um,
It's fine.
but from here on out, it like fizzles out because it goes from the focus of um Tobias is the main character. Tobias needs to overcome these issues with these other men and not die. To how do I spend more time with Layla? How do I fall in love with Layla? Layla, 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 Layla.
let's
Yep.
make out, let's have so many fucking scenes of them bantering. And like I literally in my car while I was listening to this would be like, would you two stupid fucks shut up? I hate the way that they banter. It's not good. Like Jenna clearly thinks she's really funny and she's not. It's so
Dude,
every cringy millennial way of being funny
the
that I
scene,
hate.
the scene
Which
where she practices fighting with um with Tobias with Flynn and she crawls on top of him. Like, why did she bring Flynn in the first place? Why did like there was no purpose to bringing him. He's only an issue. And
he was
also
just
Flynn
the
also has like a bipolar moment where he literally flips from being a semi-decent human being to just being like a vapid nothing.
a huge dick out of nowhere because Moresi was like, "Okay, you did that part. Now I
No more
want you to.
development. We're stopping there. We're going back to the beginning.
We're done." Yeah, it's wild. Also, can I just say that the way she writes any of the sexual moments between Tobias and Layla, they're so terrible because like I don't know
It's
why, but she can't stop trying to make a joke. Like there's a point where he was like something it's intense, it's things, and he's like, "Go under the shorts, under the shorts, under the shorts," and I'm like, "Is this American Pie? Is this smut a la American Pie?" That's how she writes smutty scenes.
yes.
Is
That's a
a la
perfect
American
comparison.
Pie. That humor, like weird tongue in cheek, like
Mhm.
late '90s, early '90s boy humor of American Pie is how every sex scene between the two of them, she doesn't even get close to tension, a hint of smolder, a hint of anything, because anytime they're doing something, he was like, it was just him, Layla, and her hands on his cock. Life was good. And I'm like, what are we doing? Why are you writing it this way? I don't
That's
understand.
funny.
That's like the one time where Tobias walks in on the two competitors, one giving fellatio to the other, and he's like,
Enzo, baby.
I know. It was so like I'm just like, why is there just so much sex? Like this is not the way people really are like
The
this.
book is so horny. Like again, it's so horny. And okay, so let's talk about sex. SEX.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Sorry.
I was gonna do that, and then I didn't remember any of the rest of this.
Let's talk about
Let's
you
talk about you
and me.
and me. Sorry,
So
continue.
here's the thing about the book, and again, this goes back to it being a very kind of juvenile high school view of the world, which is that when I first read this book in our first review, I said the book is very man-hatey, and I stand by that. And I actually think that's more of a problem now that I've read it like 3 times, because the book really doesn't like
Mm-mm.
manliness. The only men who are like okay are the ones who are like less manly than others or die, like very early on. Um, and so it's not that Jenna is sex negative per se. She's okay with sex when it's lesbian sex, when it's gay guy sex, or when it's Tobias. But any male, like,
The tugging on the
sexuality
cock.
as expressed towards women is evil. And women who are receptive to that sexuality are whores who like are vapid and are morally degenerate for giving in and pandering to that, a la Cosima. Even though like
Why are we
the
slut
point,
shaming Jenna?
yeah, and that's the thing is only Tobias and Layla are allowed to have heterosexual sexual impulses that are good. So like and we'll talk about this. We didn't talk about this, but all the competitors speak incredibly crudely about Cosima and the Savior and all the sex acts they're going to perform on her and how that's all she's worth. And again, I want you to think about this in the aspect of if in the real world there were a bunch of Catholic high school girls talking this crudely about the Pope. It's a weird it's so odd. I mean, men don't even talk this crassly about like actresses they like in the modern day. It is such a caricature of how men actually speak and think. It's like a heightened like, all the boys have hormones except for me and my cool goth chick who like we're mildly polite to each other, so we're so much deeper than everyone else.
Yeah, it's like because here's the thing: are there men that absolutely are crude and gross when they talk about women? Yes, but they are not all
All of them. It's not
in
all of the
in
ones in the competition.
in this world. is saying all men are crude and disgusting and gross, except for Tobias, the gay guys, and Orion, who's in love with his dead wife.
Yes,
You know, so sad. Death.
romantically and not coded sexually.
At all, at all.
And it
And it's wild to me because as a woman who has sometimes had to like look at a man and be like, yes, I've experienced sexist things and like harassment and stuff like that, and then being like, wow, that's never happened to me, and have to justify that. By that same breath, I can tell you, tis not everyone, and it not just like out in the open amount around other men that you don't know if they share, because like one of the things that you realize is that like people play to their audience. If they're not sure who their audience is, they ain't gonna talk like it's just them and their bestest best friends. And so there would be like a development as the men split off. This particular group is real gross, but like all the groups are pretty gross. And so there's just this idea that like in this world, apparently all men are just comfortable objectifying and speaking really grossly about their god queen out the gate with zero shame or fear of retribution,
also
which
it
implies that that's just okay
it
everywhere.
also doesn't really make any, like, I mean, I don't even want to get onto Rondi's. It's because, like, what a one note character as well. Like, it's very silly. And also, there's so much unexplained political machination stuff that, like, it almost seems like she like knew she was going to write a sequel from Layla's perspective, and she thought that was going to be some hot shit, and
It's not.
it's
It
not
makes it
really. I
so
mean, it
much
is,
worse.
but
Yes.
no, but there's like, it really does come off as like a trauma almost, the response. It feels like her immune system as a writer is attacking certain things, even though it doesn't need to attack those things. So I don't know. It's just it's
It's part of the overall thesis of the book, and it plays into other things. So like Lindbergh said, yeah, I think most women have experienced some men talking about women that way, but it's definitely not all of them, and the way it angled in the book feels misrepresentative and misandrous. Like, men are trash. This is true. We do objectify women sometimes, but there's also an era in which the way they objectify her is very aggressively dominant coded in terms of like, oh, she's gonna be but it's not
Gross
like
stuff, gross stuff, gross stuff.
it's not like Flynn is like, oh, she's a beautiful flower. We should not sexualize her. That's another form of objectification.
yeah, and
Or
all of
even
them
if
are
they
like
were like,
sexualizing her except for like Good Boy, you know? Like it's
yeah, it's treated like the grossest way men can ever talk. And like, as a guy, I've spoken with other men. It's not. It's just not like that, and it fits into this very juvenile view of the world. And it's also just again not. It does not make sense for them to be talking about their god, prophet, queen this way in a society that has been around for a long enough time.
That only survives, again, I'm just going to remind everyone who's watching that this entire kingdom would be dead and would have been a desert, dead, not enough food, little people in, their like movable huts because shit gets blown down and then you just put them back up kind of society, except for the Savior appearing. She literally makes the crops grow, helps the weather, helps sickness. If she lies naked in the garden, it does a good for society. And the entire backbone of what is happening and what Tobias realizes in this next section of the book that we've been talking about is that people are trying to kill Layla. Surprise, Layla's the savior. Not just people, but Brontes, the frickin' what's
Regent,
his title? Not
regent,
the, they call him something else. Sovereign?
the
sovereign.
sovereign.
Sovereign. They literally, this guy is trying to kill Layla, and you find out in the second book, he's the one that killed her mama, and so like this entire book falls apart on a fundamental level when
Yeah.
you're like, oh, the success and wealth and fertility of this entire nation goes away if you kill this bitch and she doesn't have a kid to carry it on, and you're just gonna kill her. Not just that, you tried to kill her mom, and then you find out you killed the mom. You were hoping the baby would die at the same time. The baby didn't, and then because a 9-year-old threatened a guy's granddaughter, and he convinces you to not kill her as a baby.
Katie doesn't know about this idiocy.
Yeah, wait, side note, I wanted to say, Chaplin fan also made a point. Jenna treats the savior like a celebrity rather than a deity, and that's not how religion works. Yeah, no, it would be wild if I like, we were going to the Vatican and we were, tourists, and I just like whispered to you guys, I can't wait to hop on Jesus's dick. I'm gonna ride him into the moon. I'm going to fucking swallow that delicious religious cock. And
I'm
like,
gonna
no,
sit on his face till he rises from the dead again. Like that. It's that kind of like
Yes.
bullshit.
I think I cried a little.
Yeah, no, but see, it's the same exact thing. It's the same exact thing. It would be like me sexualizing Jesus, which is really weird.
Really
It's just it makes no sense. It's very much.
I'm not saying
Jenna-
people don't do. Oh, I lost you guys.
Yeah,
Are you
you
back?
froze.
Oh, I made a funny too.
What's your
Oh.
funny?
Will, are you back?
Oh boy.
Are we
Am I
back?
here?
Yeah,
We're
we're
here.
here. We're here. We did it.
What was your funny?
I don't remember. It was in the moment, but it's fine.
Well, it'll come
Um,
back to you.
Continue. 'Cause
Oh, right. So, right, there's a plot. Somewhere in here.
Is there?
No, I do want to just like throw out there. So one of the dumb games too that they have to complete is, like I said, that card game I mentioned before, the memory game. They have a bigger version of that, which doesn't really make sense, like logistically speaking. It seems like there's like tech being used, and it's like this world doesn't have tech. I don't know. It's just very strange. And what basically happens is if you fuck up, your hand gets smashed by a mallet. So cartoony. That's like Bugs Bunny level cartoony.
Also, you have to leave your hand there long enough for the mallet to. I would just be like.
There's so many parts of this book that are dumb that we didn't even go over the highlights of it. Like we haven't talked about the painting thing. We haven't talked about him like waffling on the failing that on purpose, or how he somehow couldn't draw a face he meant to 3 times. Like, because that's how art works. You enter a fugue
Oh my
state.
god, guys, when the painting thing was happening, I literally was sitting next to my husband and I was cleaning the bathroom and he was doing something else in the bathroom. And just like, it was Layla again. He looked again and he was surprised. It was Layla again. And I was like, you are currently drawing this. You are currently making decisions to draw this.
You
Why
didn't
haven't
enter a fugue state, my dude.
I know, and also like you can. He also has only like 5 things, and he just keeps wasting them. And finally, at one point, he writes like something "fuck me" or something like that, like he's angry, and it's like scribbles. Yes, and I'm just like, you did this on purpose. Why did you waste your time doing this? Again, really great time for a sculpture. Could have done a bust of her or something like that. And like as somebody said before, I think it was Nemo or something. But somebody was like, yeah, why he could have just done a bust or something. That also would have been we could have had a ghost scene where like they're like making the bowl and there's the clay even. And
Do you understand sculpture versus
oh, pottery? Yeah,
pottery?
No, I know.
Because those are two separate. You know what would have been so funny if he made a sculpture, but it was Layla and like what he thought her body looked like, and he was like, I can't do this, and he just knocks the head off. And it's just like one of those Greek statues with no head.
No, that's what it should have been. Is he should have been punished for messing up her face, like because he had to cut it off. Also, Valerie said, just draw a stick figure with huge circles and call it Kasima. Fair.
Again, flowers. As I said last time, have you never seen anything else in your life, my dude? She did say her favorite flowers were roses, as Sharka O'Shea says.
Because she's lame and mainstream and doesn't like lilies.
Lilies.
Like Layla.
Also, that's so dumb. Like, that's so goth. But anyway, no. Yeah. I was like, why isn't he just drawing a bouquet or a pastoral scene even, or a picture of the castle or something?
His view of the castle that he saw from up on that hill that he lived on, and he saw, there's so many options.
There are so many options. It was very dumb. And also, I want you all to know they're still in the tunnel. Like, they're still in the tunnel for some reason. And it just always happens. Again, I really genuinely believe it's because she didn't want to have to describe scene changes. Because why else would you have everything in just a tunnel.
Yeah, she's real bad at descriptions. I should also point out that it really struck me this time how okay Tobias is with her murdering lots of people for no stated reason and him being very sure that she has a good reason and is a morally good person. Like, that feels so much. It's so random and weird. Like, why would you think it's not a human reaction? There's so many parts of this book, and the art part of it is one of the most specific that you can tell Jenna had early on, and then she fit into the book, even though the piece no longer really fit. Like, it doesn't. Somebody must have told her as a beta reader that, like, hey, that doesn't make sense, and then she just kept it.
Yep. So I would also like to state, Jenna pulls the same trick twice, and it was already not a good trick, and so having it happen twice was really irritating, especially when the second time it happened was in the last 15 minutes of the novel. But so Tobias and Layla have a fight. Right? So they have, there's turmoil between them in the relationship, which we don't need. He's already fighting for his life. Why? And also the turmoil, anyway, we're not going to get on that road. The point is, though, is that it's like, it is so contrived because Tobias so far is very accepting, as Will said.
Trusting.
And, yes, all of this. And so they have this one moment, and it's like he suddenly has an epiphany, and he's like, you're a liar. All you do is lie. You lied to me.
And
go ahead.
only because Flint, so this is the point where they end up in the fortress, the castle. Like, they've come out of the dungeons of the worm tunnels underneath, and they're in the castle now, and they've been here, and Flint's like, oh, you're fucking Layla. You have betrayed, you blasphemer. You're supposed to be here for the savior. You suck. I'm gonna tell people if you don't end it. And Tobias is like, oh man, look, I've put her in danger. And then he chooses this moment, being like, oh man, our lives are at risk. I have to, like, tell people shit, this whole thing. And he's like, now's the moment. I'm gonna be pissed off at you for not telling me, because, like, the entire time he knows she's hiding something. The entire time. There's literally a point earlier where she was like, I need to tell you, and he's like, when
it's
you're
okay.
ready,
I know
babe.
you have your secrets.
It's fine.
It's your life. We don't know each
You
other
do
that well,
you,
which is
Pikachu.
understandable. Yes. And then
he just goes off on her. He says some real nasty ass shit.
Yes.
The minute she actually goes, all right, bet.
And then he immediately in that moment says, oh, I'm so sorry, I went too far. But it doesn't make sense with the way he was building up. So it's like an immediate forgiveness, but not quite, because, he has to have some angst. So she doesn't forgive him, runs off crying, blah, blah, blah. And so he gets drunk again for the second time in this. Also, her description of being drunk, though, like, fair enough. Like, I mean, I kind of feel like the whole book was like, anyway, but yeah, so then he goes and he puts a nice little sketch or whatever of Lily's in this. Also, by the way, Layla randomly during all this stupid ass stuff clears an entire art wall in the like art gallery of the castle or whatever, and is like, this is for you. And it's like, number one, babe, he might die tomorrow. Number two, you're not supposed to, like, you're the savior. Nobody's supposed to know you have this. How do you have this kind of power? And number three, why did you save an art wall on there if you sooner or later you're probably going to have to run away from, like, it's very obvious that she doesn't belong here and that she's not safe here. Why would she be like, yes, let me make a corner for the person I have a crush on to put his drawings on, and so that way I can look at them all the time.
Also, the fact that Tobias doesn't, because there's multiple points where he's like, the facts don't add up, nothing. There's all these pieces and I can't put them together. And I'm like, you should. You should be able to, buddy. Like, there's this one point where she has an original, like as if something Plato wrote. Like, she whips out a scroll and she's like, this is the original. And he's like, how do you have this? And she's like, people give me gifts sometimes. And also that gallery wall that I was able to completely. And also, did you see my cool garden? And I get to go everywhere and I haven't gotten in trouble at all for any of the shit. And I keep telling you everything is. Like, at a certain point, you're just like, Tobias, are you the dumbest boy in school?
He is the dumbest boy in school.
Dumbest.
And then, so anyway, of course they forgive and forget. to some degree. But then it comes up again in the same format in the last 15 minutes of the novel where he's like, "You're a liar." And I'm like, "Oh my God." When finally it comes out that she's the savior, he's like, "Oh, you lied to me all this time." And I'm like, "Oh my effing God, this was already established. Why is this?" And then it's immediately solved. So then why even bring it up in the first place?
But also, it solves all the problems. If she's the savior, you have now won. You get to marry this. Like, come on, my dude.
It's so weird.
Or why are you? Because he's just like, this is all because of the savior. Like, the savior has any control. Like, have you seen Kasima have any real control when you saw that? Like, and once you find out Layla's the savior, then you need to go, oh wow, she really had zero control. Her father was trying to kill her this entire time because he's like, the savior is the reason all this killing has happened, even though Brontes is the one who did all of this and organized it and fuck the savior, she's the worst. And it's like, okay, I'm glad you built up an idea of what the savior was, but once you find out Layla is the savior, you need to then come to terms with everything that she has dealt with that you know about, which is, people trying to murder her. He finds out Layla's the savior after he literally is captured by Kaleo going, I know I was supposed to kill Layla, but I got this guy instead. And Brontes being like, fuck, I really wanted to kill her, but I guess we have to deal with this guy. So Brontes have been trying to kill Layla this whole time. And then you find out she's the savior, and then you're like, oh, Brontes is her fucking father. Why is any of this happening? Evidently she's in danger. Let me hear her out instead of getting mad like an asshole.
Okay, but also, like, why is he trying? What do you mean trying? Just kill her.
Just kill her!
Oh my God.
He was a baby! You could have been like complications after she had to be C-sectioned out of her mother. This book shouldn't have happened. If there's one thing I can tell you, the actual story of this book is it opens with the whole thing where the savior is murdered, and then they take the baby, and then the next page is, due to unfortunate circumstances, the baby did not last long after the death of its mother, and then the entire society crumbled as the gifts of the savior died, and Brontes was left as the ruler of a dead kingdom.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, some of this will be explained in TSS, the Savior's Sister, and it will make even less sense there. Is the funny part?
So much less sense.
Oh, we have a question that's interesting. Here, 1 second.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, I want to know, did Layla actually have any motivation? Did she understand her responsibility? We don't know. That's never established with us.
Good point.
Not in this book.
So the question then becomes, what is Layla's motivation in this? It seems her motivation is, 1, don't get killed by Dad. 2, find a way to be with Tobias. And 3, there also seems to be,
she's killing senators. She's been killing senators.
But that goes back into, I don't want my dad to kill me. So that's the motivation. So don't die and fall in love are the 2 motivations. Now, how does that connect with her upbringing as the savior? Why doesn't she care about the people? Why doesn't she have a complicated relationship with having to care for the people and stuff like that? It's because if she's just going to run away, how is that going to solve anything? Why doesn't she kill Brontes herself? Like, she can kill him. She can literally shadow walk and kill him. Why doesn't she kill him?
She could have killed him 100 times. So much of this book would have been greatly dealt with. And Lan Johnson is mentioning what I mentioned 100 times in our review of both books, which is, but come on. Oh, dang it. Yep. Which is exactly why Brontes' plan should have been to pull a Mother Gothel with baby Layla. If you want to be in charge of everything and you want to be able to also have all the benefits of the savior being alive, so you have a rich nation, that baby, that girl needs to think you are the world's bestest dad. She needs to be devoted to you. She needs to be like you. I mean, that should be this book. Like, I don't understand how you saw the opportunity was right there and you just walked away from it, because the way it's written, either she should have killed him or he should have killed her years ago. There is zero reason to get to this point in the story.
And this is what happens when you as a writer have all these cogs and you want to use that particular cog because you like the way it looks and you like the way it sounds. But when...
What this is Jenna's problem with...
Oh, damn it, Will. I thought you were going to continue my metaphor for not all the cog thing.
Oh, you mean how clocks don't have gears they don't need?
Yes, that's what I thought you were going to do. God,
Sorry,
that's where I was trying to.
you
I was
glitched
saying
for a
cogs.
second.
Yeah, no, but no. The thing is she's including things that she likes the idea of, but once employed, it's no longer relevant. But instead of killing your darlings and getting rid of that thing and then adjusting the story for what it's actually molding into, she is the author. She is the god of this world. Just redo it then to include the stuff you like.
And
She
make it
has a
make
problem
sense.
where she is very rigid with her outlining, and this is why Layla not revealing she's the savior to like the last page is such a problem because it it should happen much earlier organically, and the book is kind of a lame until you get to that point, but she outlined it a certain way, and so she's going to hold to that till the end, and it's just not a
You need to be
great.
adaptable
Yeah,
when you're writing like
Yep.
that.
it just makes the book feel very author fiat.
Yep, and I think you're completely right. There's so many opportunities, Will, prior to the very end of the book, where it would have made sense for her to tell him, and in ways where it could have been motivating. It could have been like, "Hey, here's what's going on. You're in a death competition, fighting for your life, but there's all this other stuff happening in the background." Also, perhaps if we'd done that, we wouldn't have needed the second garbage book.
Also, again, just in conclusion, because honestly, like, there's nothing else in the book that I'm thinking of that's like particularly. It just, it's fine. Like, it's just it's honestly a really bad book.
Yeah.
It's
So, would you say that you think this author should have a huge platform where they give advice to other authors?
okay. Okay, just because you don't use your own advice does not mean your advice is not good advice. I've never watched a video of hers. I know nothing about what
Fair.
kind of advice she gives. But that being said, that doesn't necessarily negate from what she has to say and whether or not that is viable. But that doesn't make her a good author. She might be a good coach. She might be a good planner. She might, or I don't know, whatever you
She's
want to
not,
call.
but
Yes. But she can be a good that and be a bad writer. You can't, like, writing is different
no, it's
from
true.
giving advice
It's
on that.
That's true. You defeated me there, but it's the book is just real dumb in that respect. There's it's such a frustrating book because there are a lot of ideas presented that are kind of interesting. Me and Maria did 2 rewrite videos. For those watching, you should go check those out. I actually am still very fond of the stories in them that we came up
Excellent.
with.
We did let me tell you, some of our those two rewrite videos, and then Katie and I's
Oh my god,
uh
that's my favorite
Metal
one.
Sword
One.
Heart
Oh, you're right, Sword Art.
The
was
lesbian
was
butch.
was
Ugh.
let me tell you, some excellent work out there, guys. But honestly, it was, and you're right. Well, there's good bones here. There's ways to be like, well, how are we gonna take what is fundamentally a very odd concept that shouldn't go together? Which is, what if I did the Bachelorette but made it the
Hunger
Hunger
Games.
Games, or like Gladiator. Like, if I just smash those three things into each other, and it shouldn't work, but it you could make it work. And I think
You could.
there was a couple of points in the rewrite videos Will and I did where there was like excitement between us, because the idea,
Hmm.
the bases, like the bones were actually pretty cool bones, and we had some good stuff to add to it, and it was great.
Lindbergh says, William, Katie, do shut up and write the book for Parasocial Darling stream. Writing is so much harder than you would think, Lindbergh.
Wait,
Um,
write what book?
the
The
rewrite of this
Savior's
Oh,
Champion rewrite.
we should do
Savior's
like
Shadow is what we were calling it.
we really should do. It's
Yeah.
because the thing is there just like many other stories. Like the thing is Jenna has enough here that you can take it and build it and mold it into your own story, which is some. I
Hmm.
mean, that's something. But it's not perfected. This really feels like a second draft rather than and when I say second draft, I mean second draft because there aren't grammar errors, or at least I don't think there are. I listened to it. But like this doesn't feel like final draft material. This kind of feels like underdrafted because again, so many things that stand out in all those different ways. Sorry, I'm so congested right now and it's starting to get hard.
Lindbergh wanted us to
Oh.
read her writing book called "Shut Up and Write the Book." I
Oh,
did,
that makes way
yes.
more
Jenna
sense.
released that actually would not be a terrible idea. But the problem is that I read some of that originally and or when it first came out, and the problem is that it's written like her blog scripts, but there's just a bunch of them put end to end. And you realize how much her presentation helps with these, but like they're so short and insubstantial that they're not really very good writing advice. It's just a lot of like books, video scripts strung together. It's painful to read, and I don't think we could even get through that much of
You
it.
know, I think the only type, like, I just feel like I've come across so many, like, writing advice books like that, where it's almost like a blog, and it's like people's personal feelings, but it's all kind of like, honestly, kind of basic stuff. Or every now and again, there might be a small gem, like, mechanically wise, like, what can you physically do to help writing with stuff that's a little helpful. But honestly, I don't think I could get anything out of a, writing recommendation book unless it goes into the pedagogy behind literature and like goes into like more like reading comprehension level things. It's because then you're getting into how to make a more sophisticated book. Because at the end of the day, like the shut up and write the book thing, the concept behind that, like, just do the writing. There's nothing more to it than that. Yeah, just go write. Like I don't feel like there are many really great tips for a lot of people that struggle with writing.
I
I don't
mean,
know, that's my feeling on it.
it has more stuff in it than just like sitting and writing, but it's just not very good from what I remember. And like I
I think
know
the
know
idea
how.
is writing books of how, like, writing advice, like self-help books, but for writing, are fundamentally like obvious. Most of them are either very obvious, or it is getting into a level of detail that is very specific to a
Yeah,
certain person, that makes it so that writing advice books are often like more
it
what you
misses
get
the
out of
mark.
it. Yeah, then it's like any self-help book. Like, I remember one I had to read in my master's program was called Eat the Frog, which was basically start with the worst thing you have to do for the day. Just do it first thing, get it out of your way. And like, it was a whole book about that. And like, thanks. That was very one sentence that gives. I got it. Thanks.
I think what would be more influential is if somebody wrote a series of short stories or poems, because I'm partial to poems, like that have to do with that process, because I feel like that would be a creative mode to express the frustration and like ideas behind conceptualizing story and like how to then take that concept and put it into a physical form through writing. But
So before we go, I wanted to talk about our plans for the future. So, The Savior's Army, the sequel to this book, it will
oh
be
god.
re-releasing, I think, in like somewhere between like 5 months to a year, because there were some beta readers that we had in our community who read through it. So that it's like already at that stage. It already is going to be as bad, if not worse, than
No,
these
I
books.
was gonna say, wouldn't it be great if she blew it out of the water and it was like a ridiculously amazing book?
It actually would make for a great video. We could be like
It
Jenna
would be
learned,
great.
you know what I mean? Like that kind of.
Look at this
It would be
comparisons.
great.
Here are the.
Yeah, it is not gonna happen. It's awful. And she also it was an interesting view into how little she understands how critique works, and she's very bad at accepting it. But again, um, so that will be a huge bump for the channel when it comes out. If she takes
Yeah,
longer than
well.
like 3 or 4 months to do it, if it's like a year from now, in a year we'll make Katie read The Savior's Sister,
Oh,
so that she can
Oh
get the
no.
I just look
yeah.
again the tugging
So for
thing.
your
It
hopes, you
really
better hope she
it
publishes it
really
soon.
Releases
bothers
it
me. I
soon.
don't if there's any more scenes you make me read where there are penises out being tugged out aggressively, like I'm gonna
But the
vomit
book
in my mouth.
basically open the first like 50 pages has one of those.
Yes, I know. That's the only reason I know. It's because that's
Oh yeah,
like yeah,
no,
but it was horrible.
it's worse. That book is legitimately worse. And I will say that there is less, of the bro talking gross that stuff, but it is replaced with a bunch of other stuff that you will read Savior's Sister and you will miss Savior's Champion.
Yeah, The Savior Sister has a bunch of structural problems to it that this book doesn't have. Again, this book is sort of action adventure, at least in form, and it kind of works because of that. And Savior Sister is a different genre, and it's worse.
It's
Um,
is bad.
so that's our plan. Subscribe to the channel if you would like to see that when it comes out. The
Yes,
other
and
thing.
go
No, go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and if you haven't already, again, join our Discord. There's some really, if you're a writer and you really want to find a group of writers in particular and not just be a reader,
It's a pumpkin.
there's.
Sorry, Simone.
By the way, your camera has been horrendous this entire time, so we didn't even see Pumpkin.
No. It's
been
you'll
going
on
in
my
and out.
end. It'll be fine. It's your connection.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
I don't know
on
if
my
it's
end. The
just my
camera is fine.
Okay, that's good.
Everything's recorded
Yes.
locally.
Yes. I understand.
Yeah, but I will. This will all be keeping up as a live stream probably, so I'm not gonna
Oh.
edit it. So,
But yeah,
no
no.
Pumpkin, but
What I was gonna say is it's a great community. You should join. It's finally starting the critique stuff back up again, slowly but surely. It'll literally be exactly like my creative writing class because that is exactly how I'm structuring it, so I don't have to think of a new organization.
So, again, before we go, let me see if I can do this. I wanted to show you guys on an incognito window where the ranking of when you search the Savior's Champion, our video on it is, because I think that would be kind of fun.
How many views
let
does
me
the
see.
video have now?
Let me tell you, we don't come up at all for Akatar. It makes me really sad. There's too many people out there
Dude,
doing it.
Her Universe, anybody who knows what Her Universe is, it's a higher end clothing and accessory shop online for women. And now they've opened a men's line, but for women who are nerds who like, just any type of fandom stuff. And they make really nice clothing. So that way it's not just a t-shirt. And they have so much ACOTAR stuff. They have sweaters, they have dresses, they have things with
Who are we
quotes
talking
on
about?
it. Her Universe is a store.
Online
Oh,
store.
okay.
Yeah, it's a really it's a nicer nerd clothing store, and there is just so many ACOTAR things. Anyway, you were showing us something.
Go.
So, here on Savior's Champion, right? Let me get I need to find one that has an all three of us setting. Let me see. Two of us. Oh no, there we are.
Are we number
There-
two?
So that's right. We're number 2 when you search for it.
Oh, very
Not
nice. Look at
bad.
Maria's face in that.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
I
look
gotta
how many
redo the
views we
thumbnails,
have.
but-
Oh my god, we're only 1,000 views less. Well, at 10,000 views less than Daniel
Daniel Green.
Green's video. Also, the video that's number 3 is like
And then
1,000
in terms
views.
of and then also in terms of, I still have that shirt by the way. In terms of comments, we are at, how many comments are we at for this?
So many.
Let's see. 699.
Oh, there's the editing chat. That's a lot of fucking. And you know what's
And
funny?
then
I think
we are
I've read almost
actually-
every single one.
Yeah, I actually have as well. Some of the comments, or some of the replies, I don't think I've read. But that's where we're at, guys. So we're not doing too bad. I think we're doing the Lord's work. It must annoy her so much that her SEO, when you search, is just us. Like, really, that's what it and that's like got to be like, as someone who worked in SEO, that's got to be so annoying to her.
That's
Oh, man.
But you know,
that is one thing I'm really glad that we have. Well, I'm glad I get to make the jokes with you about it because you guys were both in it. But also after the marketing thing and everything, like it could be so helpful for us if I actually dedicated time to helping you with that. Will, I'm so sorry I don't.
Oh, it's fine. Oh, they
It
say
kinda
that
puts, like,
we
a
show
bad
up for
taste in my
Savior's
mouth.
Sister if we search on Google. Let me try Savior's Champion
Oh.
on Google.
All I can think about, like all my kids are like,
Savior's
"Oh, I'll just use
Champion.
AI to write my essay and give it to you." And I'm like, "Do you know how obvious it is when AI writes your shit?" I mean, I don't tell them
No,
that
we don't show up
verbatim.
with Savior's Champion. Too bad. Champion,
Boo.
Savior's Sister. Oh, actually, yeah, you one video with Katie with the same thumbnail essentially. This is problematic. The Savior's Sister, Jenna Moresi. That's actually pretty funny. Okay.
well, that's
So we did
nice.
the Lord's work
we've
here
in-
is what I've learned.
we've infected the Savior's. What is the series name?
The Savior's something? I don't know actually. Yeah,
Oh, well.
and so yeah, it's interesting because I actually am glad too, because when the channel started and this video and the Savior Sister blew up so much, I was like, I don't want to become an anti-saviors whatever channel. I don't
Yeah.
want to do, you know what I mean? I don't want that to
Tons of other
become
stuff.
our yeah,
Brand.
and we really have, I think, which is really cool. We've really broadened out, and we do have like I think this is probably like our 7th video on the series, but that's over 3 years. Also, our most popular video is now the Shadow the Conqueror, so I guess that's actually how people know our channel.
And also, it's worth the amount of content on it, though. It's because of how widely marketed it was, how well known it is, but because there's a lot to say, and also because like I wasn't if we would not have done another video if I had read it originally with you guys. But to be introduced to this again, I kind of just like in essence in review kind of had like a, and when I say fun, I mean that incredibly mildly. I mean like 1 out of 10 fun. Would not do again, but still in the moment, not the worst. But I really enjoyed like all the death and like weird. I just wish the games were more interesting because that's like what it all hinges on. That's like the whole point of the
I
whole
wish it
book.
was. I wish it was absurd. You know, like I wish it just
Mhm.
embraced the absurdity of it and just went straight for absurdist comedy. You know, where we were less like the romance should have been real tongue in cheek. The like, oh my God, she's the savior, and then every other character outside of Tobias should have been like, yeah, you didn't realize that yet. Like
That
it
would
would have
have
been
been
so
so funny,
funny.
actually,
It
if
would
it
have
was
been
like a comedy.
so funny. Um the what is that term I'm looking for?
What?
The satirical movie
Yes,
version of this
would be quite funny. And again,
would be
I think Jenna is
hysterical.
trying to do a little bit of a pulpy,
Yeah,
not
it
taking it
comes
seriously
across.
tone, but it doesn't quite work with the rest of how bad she is at. But like the thing is, the pulpiness just is badly written. Like it's bad
Yes.
pulp. Pulp has to be well written for it to be good.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Any last thoughts?
Just thanks guys for watching. We had a really great turnout today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry I'm not funny. But I hope you still
You
enjoyed
are
my feelings
funny.
on the book.
What are you
Um,
talking?
wish
You're so
Mistress
weird.
Cheeto an extra. I'm gonna give her an extra mealworm, so she's gonna gorge herself today. So
All right, we will talk to you all later.
goodbye.
Bye.
What I meant was like pray for